got something that might interest you.
We are the Casual Gamers Project. Welcome to part 2 of our Resident Evil podcast special. My name is Diggs. I'm joined once again by my fellow casual gamers, Peter and Stevo.
Howdy.
We are delighted once again to welcome back Freddy for this epised. It's great to have you join us for one more. You're most welcome, good sir.
Oh, thank you very much, dear friend.
It's a splendid evening for recording a podcast.
It is indeed. I might be as tad discombobulated.
Anyway, on a previous episode, we talked in depth about our experiences and thoughts on the original Resident Evil trilogy on PlayStation 1. If you haven't already checked that out, you can find it on our Spotify, Podbean, and YouTube channels, all under the title Casual Gamers Project. So guys, on the previous episode, we left behind the first trilogy in Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3. I think it makes sense to progress on to the next releases in the timeline. But before we do so, since Freddy wasn't with us on the last episode, I think it'd be good just to kind of
get his opinion.
Get his opinion on the first trilogy. Like, which is your favourite? Or
well, you all know I'm biased. You know what I mean? I'm a massive Leon fan. You know, like Resident Evil 1 kicked open the door for survival horror for me at a young age. I was totally blown away. Resident Evil 2, like I even remember getting a demo with Resident Evil Director's Cut, and I was like, "Holy, this is amazing!" Right? Yeah. But and like we all remember that first scene in the police station when the liquor's on the roof. Like, I mean, it's
very iconic scene.
Very iconic scene. Like, and you like. Your face is matching Leon's because you're like, what is that? It's on the roof. You know what I mean? You're literally doing what he's doing. Mm-hmm. But like Resident Evil Nemesis was awesome as well. The only thing, like, you know, I'm sort of jumping ahead here. I was disappointed in the remake that we had no Barry show up at the end. That was the big one.
Yeah, I think
that, you know,
that's a huge deal. I think.
Yeah, they should have kept that canon, you know. I don't know if this is an alternative universe we're doing or whatever. But I felt like Resident Evil 3 was great too, you know, because you had the mercenaries bit as well, where you got to play as Carlos and stuff, and you had to get out. It was good. I mean, each one of them has their own strengths that added the titles, but the first three were just like the hardcore, just brilliant.
Yeah.
You know? Totally agree. So two is your favorite, right?
Two is my favourite. I think I love 2 because I remember when I first played 2 and then I finished it and it goes, oh, this isn't the end. And I was like, what? What do you mean it's not the end? And then you got to replay it again and everything's different. And then you get the real end. And that just, for me, that was amazing because it felt like there was such replayability in it. You knew you had to play it again the other way as well for Claire to get Leon's. So like, I mean,
that was a clever thing, I thought.
It was very clever. Plus, I felt you got more bang for your buck as well. You know, because, you know, now you finish a game and it's done, and, you know, you might never come back to it. But that made you have to play it because you knew you didn't get the full ending. You know what I mean? Because you're on the train and the light flickers and that's the ending. Yeah. You know? So then you're like, what do you mean? What was that? And then you realise that there's more to come after that. No, it was just, it was a pretty cool game. And I don't think anyone's ever done that. A scenario B and a scenario A ever. I've never seen that in
a game. I don't think I've never seen it.
No, definitely not.
And I thought it was awesome. The only other game that came close to that was Daisy. No, not Daisy.
Yeah.
Days Gone. I don't know, I can't remember. The one with the motorbikers, right? You finish the game and then there's another bit to play on which gets you like a secret ending that you didn't like, you'd think this is the credits and it's done. But there's another mission that unlocks like a secret ending, and it's pretty cool as well.
Yeah.
But you know, in no particular order, 2 is my favourite. I'd say 3, then 1.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Oh.
Like,
That's interesting because I think for me, like I still see one as my favorite because it's the first one. You know, it's the first introduction. But I can see why a lot of people are kind of gravitate towards two because it's far more polished game. Visually, it looks better. Even the soundtrack I thought was better.
I think for a lot of people though, it was actually their first entry into the series as well.
Yeah, too. Yeah,
that's
That definitely would have brought a lot of people into it already.
Yeah.
For me, about 2 and 3 was you were like going through the city and you would pick up the wee notes and you would see what the people were doing during the outbreak before you got there, and that was even just the lore behind the whole outbreak was so interesting to me, and that's why I think I love 2 and 3. Like obviously 1 has its own mysteries with Umbrella and the experiments. Not like, I mean, they're all fantastic games. I mean, I could probably play 1 tomorrow and reshuffle the order again, you know.
Yeah.
That's true. That's a good point actually because you can be suddenly reminded of how good one game is.
Yeah.
You know. So that's pretty good. I think I agree with Peter that like 2 is probably most people's entry point into the series, and that's why it's there.
Yeah.
First, we talked about it on the previous episode. It's like your first love, you know. That's the first one I played of
my
the
first
series.
love.
Yeah. But what was I going to say? Just one question I just want to ask Eddie as well. Just even going back to the first game, just while we're talking about it. Like even though we spent a lot of time playing the first game, like, and that got us set up then for the future sequels. But we talked about this in the last episode about the live choices. You know the way like depending on certain elements or choices, or even where you would end up in the game at different points. If you remember this as well, I think you would remember too that it would change different outcomes for Resident Evil 1. Do you remember? Yeah, because Resident Evil 2 didn't have that element because it was more linear in terms of, because obviously everything that was going to change up was going to be done through the additional scenarios.
So we're talking like when you stumble across Rebecca and the hunters coming to chop her head off.
Did you remember even the sequence where Barry gave you the acid rounds? But depending on where you went, sometimes you could meet him in the room with Forrest where you would get the grenade launcher or the bazooka, but at other times you play it, he wouldn't meet him in there. Instead you go around the bottom of the mansion and work your way up, and then you would come out on the balcony and he'd be standing there and he would give you the acid round instead, depending on what route you take. And just different altercations like that there could change certain dynamics. Like,
you see, that's one of the things about 1 that was awesome. You're on your 3rd or 4th playthrough and you're going and you're like, flip, I forgot this thing back in the other room, and then when you walk out you're like, oh, what's Barry doing? You know what I mean? You know, it's totally like, oh right, okay, I didn't know I could meet him here. It's like the time you meet him out in the hallway the first time, you know, you're like, all right, okay, I can meet this guy pretty much anywhere at different points, you know. It is very interesting. And the same when you play with Chris. I think there's like 2 different places Rebecca can get her head cut off. There's one downstairs and one upstairs. Yeah, if I remember correctly.
Right outside the save room, underneath the stairs. Yeah, and then the other one in the the room where you get the first article of book. Yeah, the book, where you get that help book that teaches you all about the helps. It was in there, I think.
That's what I'm saying. It was like those little things that really made you go, well, this game is maybe got something different that I've never experienced before. And like you say, games after that really didn't incorporate that in afterwards, I don't think, for a long time. Yeah,
because like Resident Evil 3 did kind of have that, but what it did was it actually gave you a selection where it gave you a choice of 2 options. But I prefer the dynamic that the first game had, because it wasn't, you weren't aware of it, like you said. You were completely oblivious to it. It was just as you played the game that things would happen. And
element of surprise.
Yeah, and I think for me personally, that's what made the game so cool, because there was so much replay value in that, because it left you wanting to figure it more. Because if you found that sequence, you're thinking to yourself, oh, that's really cool. What can I do if I play it this way or play that way? That's why we tested so many different variations over the years, like trying to figure everything out. And that's what made it even more memorable, you know?
Yeah. No, that's it. And like that's why going forward the series is what it is.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry, Diggs, I stepped on your
No, I was just going to mention about the multiple endings. That's what I loved. I loved the fact that you could have multiple endings in the game.
Yeah.
you would just go back and play it again for, like, maybe I'll meet Barry somewhere else, maybe I'll meet Rebecca somewhere else. I can change the ending if I do it this way, if I get the MO discs. I just thought that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Awesome. I remember the first time I completed it, I was like, yeah, I got to get Jill out of the jail cell. And then it was only when I was on the helipad, I was like, ha! I forgot about her. It's like, oh well, tough luck.
I've done that.
Jill who?
I didn't want to tell her anyway.
Well, you know, she had me sandwiches one day, so frig her.
She didn't make me dinner. She can stay there.
Oh dear, here.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
So,
Right,
yeah.
so let's move on to the next era.
Yeah. I think in we'll go based on the release timeline. So the next in the series is one of the best, I think, and it still hasn't got a remake yet. But you know, fingers crossed it is, and that's Resident Evil Code Veronica. And Steve-O, you're the man responsible for all of us playing. Well, for me and
You know,
Peter.
he's
playing it.
responsible for me playing it too, because you had it on the Dreamcast, didn't you, Stephen?
Yeah.
I did indeed.
Yeah, and I remember I just seen it and I was like, oh, I gotta get this. Oh yeah.
And once I found out that Resident Evil was actually coming out in the Dreamcast, I had the Dreamcast previous, and then when I heard it was coming out, I was like, oh, I'd be so psyched for it.
Yeah.
Because obviously with the Resident Evil on the PlayStation, now obviously with a stronger console, this has to be better.
Yeah.
And you know what? I loved it. I really did.
It was. Yeah, great console.
Yeah.
It is.
There's no point saying I didn't. I did. It's just unfortunate it just didn't get the respect that it probably deserved back in the time, but it did have some decent games, you know what I mean? And with Resident Evil coming out on it definitely, what would you say, it made my day, and yours, and yours, and yours, everybody's.
Everybody's.
To tell you what, Stephen, you're not going to be my friend when I say this. I still haven't played Shenmue.
How dare you?
I do not get him.
And I had that originally in the Dreamcast.
I know you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? Honestly, Betty, that is a series of games that, you would definitely get into. They're brilliant. They really are.
Right. Okay, let's get us back on course because Diggs is like, he's taking them off.
I know.
Right, so we'll talk about Code Veronica, right? So Code Veronica, the events of Code Veronica took place, I think, was it 3 months after Resident Evil 2?
3 months.
3 months,
Yeah, and the main protagonist is Claire Redfield. So she's going to Rockford Island in search of Chris.
Chris, yeah.
If I'm correct, yeah.
But she ends up infiltrating some sort of Umbrella headquarters, but she gets captured, and that's where
that was in Paris, right?
I think so, something like that. Anyway,
beforehand, and then she gets transported and imprisoned on this Rockford Island.
Yeah, because that's where do you remember that cool CGI intro?
Yeah.
You know, they replicated it in one of the movies too, didn't they? Where,
They did with Alice, yes. When she was running across the building,
Just mention you said that, Diggs, with the CGI. With Code Veronica, I don't think it happened with the other Resident Evils. Maybe further on, I don't know, but I think this was the first one. That all, say, like the cutscenes and all that, like anything that was happening in the game was all CGI. You know what I mean? Cutscenes, everything. I noticed that with the story and the whole lot. No,
it's been so long since I played it. I'm
If I
trying to remember.
I don't think all the cutscenes were CGI because I remember some of the scenes were in-game.
Yes,
yeah.
you're right.
Yeah, they were.
I remember now.
I think the opening one is CGI when she's running and they're shooting through the windows and all the glasses coming in.
now say some of them CGI and then other ones do like real time cutscenes.
Yeah. With the in-game engine,
Yes, that's right.
I remember that.
That'd be more like it now.
Yeah.
But I thought that was really cool.
It was,
that was the first of Resident Evil. I don't think any of the previous ones did that. No, they didn't.
No, they didn't.
No, they didn't. Yeah, you're right. It was the first one. And if I remember correctly, for those in-game cutscenes, it would go into letterbox format, wouldn't it? You get the black banners at the top and bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
So it's cinematic.
That's when you knew something was going down.
Yeah. So Code Veronica was the first time in the series where they dropped the pre-rendered backgrounds and went full 3D.
3D, yeah.
And it wasn't like it did keep the traditional static cameras, but it had that pan and sweeping camera parts as well.
Yeah.
And I just remember like the start of that game, like you escape from the prison, right? And it's just hordes of zombies you have to avoid. It was reminiscent of Resident Evil 2, right? The beginning
It
of
was,
it.
yeah, very much.
Yeah, many ways,
What
yeah.
I felt anyway.
And you're trying to run past them.
Am I correct in saying that when she escapes from the cell, she doesn't even have a weapon? She just has a light on.
Just a lighter, yeah.
have a lighter,
That's all you
yeah.
have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you get it off the dead guard, don't you, later on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was and I just remember like thinking to myself, oh my god, like how are we gonna get past this bit, you know? But I thought, and the setting of it, Rockford Island, I thought was amazing. I thought it was a pretty, in general, the overview of the game. My opinion is that Code Veronica was absolutely brilliant.
I think what they tried to do with the island was you went from a big city in 2 and 3, right? Let's bring it back to an island. Let's make it a wee bit more claustrophobic. The zombies were all packed in tighter together. So you were having to sort of be Resident Evil 1 again. Smart with your ammo, smart with your decisions. You couldn't just run around. I think that was the idea anyway.
Oh, it definitely was, because with that game, it definitely brought back the earlier version to Resident Evil. With ammo, you definitely had to conserve it.
Yeah.
Because the monsters were stronger, and even the ammo, it was scarce at times. So you really had to look at what you're doing and say, right, I'm not going to shoot this one, I'm not going to shoot that. If I can run past, I'm going to run past. You know, that kind of way.
Yeah.
It really made you think.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I remember playing, like when you were doing the game. Obviously, we were talking about the island. I felt it was made smaller. It brought you to like an isolated location as opposed to a city. So to give you that claustrophobic feel, as you say, there was more zombies on screen now. Than
More
before.
eerie,
Yeah. Plus, like you meet your first companion or friend, Steve, early on in the game.
Steve Burnside.
Hated
Steve Burnside. I was so glad when he died.
The only one he's done my head in.
I was like, bye, Steve. Bye. Poor Claire was gutted. I was like, yeah, get over him, Claire. But like, it was just like, as I was saying, the whole setting was different, and you had a lot of the as you say, having to conserve your ammo. Like, do you remember that enemy was like the Bandersnatch?
The arm could stretch.
I used to hate those guys, man,
Yeah.
because you'd be thinking, like, especially if the camera hadn't flipped or changed for you, you'd be like, where is he? And next one you get, oh, he's right there.
And they were really tough to kill as
It
well.
was a nightmare, and I don't know, many times I had to try and run past because I literally had no ammo, and it was the only way just to run past them, and they were a nightmare.
They were super tough to kill as well.
Yeah, I remember that part especially. Yeah, they were tough to kill. But no, I'm thinking. Do you remember the? I can't remember what it was called, but it was sort of like a replica of the Spencer Mansion that you would enter.
Yeah.
Like that's what I think that's one of the things about Code Veronica I love so much. The fact that Vedi, what you mentioned there a few seconds ago about the going back to the the island being isolated, that felt like Resident Evil 1, the way you're in the Spencer Mansion and being isolated. Whereas 2, you kind of went into the city and I didn't feel so isolated away,
Yeah.
But that's what I loved about Code Veronica, that it went back to that kind of true survival horror feeling of isolation. But yeah, no, I absolutely loved it. And when I think about it as well, like the game is absolutely enormous. Was it on 2 discs?
It was in 2 discs, yeah.
I was trying to rack my brain. Was it? It is, yeah.
It is, yeah.
The one thing I found is it threw you off at different points, especially when you got towards the end of the first disc, because it left you with the impression that the game was over and that was it. And then all of a sudden you realise, oh, there's more, So,
When you finished the first disc, it's more or less you're escaping the island and you think that's it.
Yeah. With Nosferatu, you kill your man Nosferatu on the roof, don't you?
And then it's more or less, there's more to this. And then the second disc, I think, as far as I can remember, and I just could be wrong, it's not long since I played it, but I think you start with Chris.
You do.
And you're like,
You do.
He's climbing the cliff.
You go into a cave and you
see
warm and all that. You know?
See when Chris showed up, I totally geeked out because I was sitting there going expecting that we were going to take over as Claire again. You know what I mean? It was going to be taken over from Claire's perspective. Like when Wesker showed up and he has that battle with which one of the Ashfords is it? He has a battle with her anyway inside the hallway.
Oh, Alexia.
I was gonna
but
say
it's
Alexia.
inside the Spencer Mansion hallway, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like the main
Yeah,
lobby.
the replica,
Yeah.
It wrapped
And I
up
was
the
like,
Resident Evil 1 mansion. I thought that was
yeah,
pretty cool.
I did, and it felt very Resident Evil 1 because Wesker looked like Wesker from Resident Evil 1. and you felt like you travelled back in time a wee bit, you know. But then obviously when you play as Chris, you're like, oh, this is like going to be different now. What's going to happen here, you know? And it was very, very like the true curveball at us. You know,
Oh, yeah.
it was good. It was good.
So what happens there? Is it like Claire escapes Rockford Island, but she heads to the facility in the Antarctic?
What happens is Alfred, he manages to take control of the aeroplane remotely and directs it directly to the Antarctic base, so they have no control over it.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Just say something sweet.
Yeah.
Well, to everybody. You say, like, Alfred. Can you remember? Well, he's well remembered. Like, he walked into a room and it's more or less, there was two entrances left and right, and then you could hear him, like a wee cutscene, you'd hear him talking, and then next of a sudden you'd hear Alexia talking.
Yeah.
Going, oh, is she alive? Is she dead?
See,
and then all of a sudden you find out then it's him.
you see, they were twins,
mental.
you see. So that's
Yeah.
where,
But she was supposed to be presumed dead,
yeah.
and he was, what would you say, acted as
It was a very weird concept. It was very out there. It really was, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It took you a while to get your head around it, but when you did, it did make sense then, you know, the kind of way, but it did take a while to get our heads around it.
Yeah.
Like even when they did the flashbacks and they're pulling the wings off the dragonfly,
Yeah.
like it
That's
gives you that-
right.
Because he had a very unhealthy obsession with his sister, so he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was creepy.
Hey man, I really like my sister.
Yeah, it was exactly that.
Yeah,
Welcome to Redneck Evil. Sorry about that. Sorry to anybody who listens from it. Thanks, you know, yes, we love you. We love you.
Well, apart from that, but it was basically fucked up that storyline like
It
that.
was,
You know what I mean? It was completely different to what we were used to. But like I said, once you got used to it, as the story developed, then you could see exactly why he was the way he was.
yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely a bizarre kind of.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Definitely at the start, anyway.
Yeah. Let's move on from.
yeah.
Oh, and you're so
I can see this.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. I know
go ahead.
it was Code Veronica on the Dreamcast. Dreamcast was 128 bit, am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was similar output to like the PlayStation 2 and that.
That console was out in its own. The N64, that wasn't out at the same time as it, was it? No.
No, the N64 was out before the Dreamcast.
Before that, but there's no
Yeah.
the Xbox or anything like that. That wasn't at the same time as Dreamcast. No. So,
No, the Dreamcast I think was the first one, right?
It was the first of that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
was
the first of that next generation. Yeah.
So the Dreamcast itself, and plus Code Veronica. Just your opinions. What did you think of the game and say console? What do you think of both?
Well, I want to mention something. The controller on the Dreamcast, like I remember that specifically being like huge, right?
Yeah,
And it
yeah.
had like a
Why they used to
little,
it.
it had a little kind of LCD screen, right? Or-
That was a memory card. You could take that out and
Oh,
you could play
right.
mini games
Yeah.
on it.
And you
Like
could, yeah,
a
you
Game
could,
Boy
yeah.
type thing.
And am I right in saying that when you played Code Veronica, your health was displayed on that? On
Yeah,
the
your hand
controller?
was displayed in the chat.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Once it
That
was
was
factored in
right.
it.
Yeah, I'm trying to fully remember. Like it only had one analog stick, or
It did.
am I-
The only one.
Yeah.
analog stick, yeah.
yeah, which is kind of that was.
But it was very similar. It was very similar in
Compact, you know what I
shape.
mean? Even though it was big, it was though like width. It wasn't very wide. So kind of,
Yeah.
it was.
I'd
it was
say
very
that-
compact.
I'd say that's what inspired like the Xbox controller because it had a very similar style, the way it was laid out.
It reminded me now.
Yeah.
When I think about the Xbox,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, what about shoulder buttons? I'm trying to remember about that. Did it have 4 shoulder
Trigger
buttons?
buttons.
No, I think it only had two
Yeah,
shoulder
Left
buttons.
and right trigger.
Yeah.
Oh right, so you didn't have like even bumpers on the top, or anything?
It,
No,
it was
I think
it was
just
actually
left and right
the because it was the
think so,
first it was the first console as well that I remember playing racing games on where you actually had to use the shoulder buttons instead of using your X and square to accelerate and brake.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is the
Yeah.
standard today, really,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no. In terms of Dreamcast, like no, I never had one, but yeah, I thought it was a phenomenal console. And, like, let's face it, it was the first online console as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of cool games in that console. I loved some of the racing games on it were brilliant. They were really
Yeah.
good.
Sega Rally was good on it.
Yeah. I had another one, Metropolis Street Racer. That was awesome.
Oh yes,
Yeah, that was excellent.
but
You You're getting very excited now. He's waiting to say something. He's ready to pop.
I know. He can.
As Code Veronica is concerned for the Dreamcast, just each opinion. What did you think?
Code Veronica.
Yeah, on the Dreamcast.
One of my favourites, I would say, in the whole
It's
Resident
definitely
Evil
one of mine.
series.
I'm going to say that it's definitely one of mine.
It absolutely needs to be remade.
Oh, definitely.
Oh yeah. Big
I
time.
can't believe now, where we are now today, like you can see the Resident Evil 4 is coming out in just under a month, I think. So it's crazy
I know.
that they skipped over that.
Yeah.
And just said,
Well, here, the way I see it is, Code Veronica was for me the reason why I ended up failing maths in my leaving cert. Because I didn't study. I was too busy playing it. Yeah.
He didn't carry the decimal point, but he made sure he brought the acid rounds.
That I did.
You were allowed to play it when I wasn't there. That's why.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh jeez.
I always remember because you were the only one, Steve, over the Dreamcast, and we had to all just wait to take our turn playing that game.
Yeah.
I was like, every time I'd see you heading out, I was like, nice one.
So you were waiting for me to go.
yeah.
When they playing football or going out or doing something, you couldn't fucking wait.
I remember one time, like, you all were going over to play football in the park, and I remember like, nah, I'm not. I don't want to go play, and I was the only one left in your house playing Code Veronica.
Which that was a normal thing in our house. There wasn't many times that happened.
I was like, it's not even my house, but I'm the only one in it.
It's not breaking and entering if you're already there.
Yeah, exactly. Make myself a sandwich while I'm here.
That's it. Yeah, I know.
You knew where everything was anyway.
Oh, well, the first boys. How do I play it? Oh, dead on.
Yeah.
Close the door and leave them to it.
I know, right?
Dig knew where everything was anyway, so yeah.
Home away from home.
Exactly.
That's exactly.
Flip, it was my home away from home as well. So
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
'Cause I'll never forget, Dig, your mother, actually, that time you stayed in the house nearly for the whole summer, and your mother was like, oh, you actually have a home to come to. You know?
You remember where you lived. That's
Yeah,
just
you remember
it.
where you live, yeah.
And telling you,
Yeah, I live
your mum,
across from you.
and telling you, your mum ran an unofficial crash. That's what it was.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. She didn't get paid for it, though.
So, Danny, what was your opinion of Code Veronica? You did play it, obviously, yeah.
Oh yeah, I finished it. I didn't get to play it on the Dreamcast. The only I ever got to see is because obviously there was a queue. So I had to wait for the PS2 one, But
Yes.
no, it was awesome. I remember sitting in my room playing it, going just like, because I seen bits and bobs, but then I made sure not to watch too much.
Yeah.
Because it was like I wanted to find out myself what was going on. And like, Peter would be like, oh man, I was like, don't talk to me, Peter. Don't talk to me. It's like and I'd be like, no. But it was just a really cool story, and like I say, like even that final battle between Wesker and Chris, you're like, oh my god, Chris is getting his ass kicked.
Yeah, because there's bits that's actually in the PlayStation 2 version that wasn't in the
Code
Dreamcast
Veronica
version.
X,
Yeah.
right? That's
Yeah.
what it's
Code
called.
Veronica X, yeah.
Yeah.
Like for me, that was the last proper portrayal of Wesker
Yeah.
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 Before it went
Yeah.
nuts.
before
Yeah.
he became Blade-esque,
Yeah. The one thing I liked about that as well, depending on the version that you got as well, if you pre-ordered it, you would also get like a DVD disc of Wesker's report. That'd be like a video,
Yes.
and that was really
That was a
cool.
big deal.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, back in the day,
Was
because
that was almost an hour long or something.
it's about 20 minutes, a half an hour long. So it was.
Right, yeah.
But it went in depth about the whole kind of background around how Code Veronica came to be and stuff like that. And yeah, it's just the only way you could really get it at the time was like say on that disc. But then a couple of years later, then you had to try and hunt it down online. Someone to say put it up maybe on a forum or something like that with a link to it, and you just had to go scavenging to try and find it.
God, do you remember forums?
Yeah,
That's a different podcast altogether.
yeah, absolutely.
Forms.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
What
But
was
like
your,
it. Oh, go ahead.
sorry, what was your, your review of Code Veronica?
Mine. pretty much said it earlier on. It cost me the fail my maths exam, so that was pretty much it for me.
Job well done.
Yeah, he did what I had to do.
5 stars, lads. 5
Yeah.
stars.
He got 100% on Code Veronica, but
I did. Yeah.
you passed. Congratulations.
See, at the time, when you think about it, I was actually kind of shocked because the Resident Evil, like Capcom and the whole lot, at the time they were releasing games for PlayStation, and the fact that one came out on the Dreamcast, I was shocked but absolutely delighted because at the time the Dreamcast was the strongest console and I'm going to play Resident Evil on it. I said to myself, this is going to be absolutely brilliant, and it didn't disappoint, especially in the Dreamcast anyway.
Yeah, I think that was Capcom wanting to flex a wee bit though, just to say like we can make a Resident Evil game that's fully 3D and has non-rendered
But I think
backgrounds.
if I remember correctly, there was supposed to be a port or something of Resident Evil 2 on the Saturn that didn't happen. So I think this is how
that came
Code
about.
Veronica ended up on the Dreamcast, and I think Shinji Mikami as well. I think he directed Code Veronica, right? I think
He had something to do with it. I don't know if he had the full.
Yeah, he was involved anyway somehow.
Yeah.
But I think he wanted to. That's where he saw the opportunity. I think to do the full 3D.
Yeah.
You know, with the power of the Dreamcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay,
delighted that they did do it. I never just thought they'd go from the PlayStation, Sony PlayStation to Sega. I thought everything Resident Evil
But
was
should
going to
the-
PlayStation alone.
They went everywhere, sure. Like when you think of the remake,
The remake
one was
and Zero
big.
was Nintendo exclusive for years.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, well, fair enough.
I hate
what's-
that, to be honest.
You know what's
Zero was
Go ahead.
GameCube. Yeah, when you think about it.
You know what's
saying,
mad
Mark?
though? You know what's mad that like only after Resident Evil 4, the only other game remade more is Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
been
it's
released.
nuts.
That's nuts. But yeah.
That is, yeah. When you think about that, like Jesus. I mean, when did GTA? Not we're going off topic a little bit. GTA
20
5 come out.
2013.
It came out.
Yeah.
2013.
Right in the
Oh,
time.
no, is it?
Around the time of the PlayStation 4's launch, it came out. Roughly
pretty
around then.
much,
Yeah.
So it did.
No, which GTA 5? It was in
Yeah.
PS3, no?
It originally, but it was up. But at the time it came out in the PS3, the PS4 was literally being launched around that time. So it was as well.
Right, so
yeah.
I get you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So when you think of it, it's 10 years old already.
yeah.
Yeah. No, but like I say, like I just thought Code Veronica was awesome. The story
Yeah.
was great. The very end, like, you know, obviously when Wesker whipped Chris's ass so bad, he was like, I need to get on the rides because this fella's just beating the life out of me. You know, but it was a great, to me that felt like the last proper survival horror Resident Evil for a long time.
Yeah, it was really. Yeah, I agree with that. Like even moving on from Code Veronica, like they did do the spin-offs. I don't know if you've ever played the Outbreak series.
Oh
It
yeah.
was later on the PS2. They were actually really good games, and they would have been brilliant had they have the online features. Now I know in the Japanese versions they had online features, but for some reason over here, because we know that the PS2 wasn't great with the online capabilities.
I bought the adapter for it. I got
So did
online. I got online maybe twice.
I didn't think I played the Outbreak ones, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
No, I
It
didn't.
was I
I
got
did either.
online twice, but it wasn't great. Like you're talking
Yeah.
Ping City, you know.
Yeah,
It was really, really bad. But no, I thought that are we moving on to the Outbreak series now, or we want to?
Yeah. No, we can move on to whatever you want. Yeah.
Yeah, like I enjoyed the Outbreak series
Yeah.
because obviously
I like
Resident
them
Evil
as well.
2. Yeah, 2 was my favorite.
Yeah, because there was a lot of there was a lot of elements of 2 in it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and like you had the whole scenario where you start off in the bar, and the zombie just stumbles in, and then everyone's like, you know, it was pretty.
Yeah.
It was like a precursor almost to Left 4 Dead,
Yeah.
because you had 4 guys, like 4 teammates with you. Wasn't it 4 or 5?
There was 4. Yeah, I think in total. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was really, really good, and I liked the way that there was File 2 came out then as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And they were sort of the same game, but the end of the File 2 really got me intrigued. I don't know if any of you has ever seen. You probably have, Smeets, have you?
Funny enough, I could get to the last boss in File 2, but I couldn't actually finish it. But
Right, well,
yeah,
I'll spill the beans, right? Basically, it shows them all escaping and the nuke going off, right? In Raccoon City, okay? But then it cuts to months later, and Raccoon City's just charred, right? It's totally leveled, and there's like a wee sort of like base built on the outside, and you see these guys in suits, and they're sitting there going like, you know, are you getting any readings, any weird stuff? And then you start to see this hand come out of the rubble. All these things are mutating in a big pile of BOW goo under the city, and they were going to start mutating it into something else, and that's where it left it. I would love to have seen where they went with that.
You know, actually, now that you mentioned that intro, I did see it, but I didn't see it until years later on YouTube. Remember, I went and I was messing around looking for stuff, and I happened to stumble across it, because again, it was one of those games I didn't get to fully finish and get to figure out all of the elements to it, so I went on the hunt, and I do remember that, actually seeing that. Yeah, you're right, that there was a lot of, but it left the door open that could have explored that element further, and it's a pity that they didn't.
Yeah, I don't know if they've canonized that now. I don't think that's part of canon.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah. Absolutely. It would have been interesting, let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
I
Definitely.
can't say too much about it myself. I can't play it, so I don't think I ever played it.
I remember say with the other spin-offs, I remember the Survivor 2 spin-off. Now, it was Code Veronica, but it was more of a first-person shooter with the arcade kind of like stuff.
Yes, the one on the boat.
Yeah, well, no, that was Dead Aim, but there was one before. There was it was based on the second Survivor game. It was a first-person shooter, but it was literally just a spin-off or rip-off of Code Veronica. It just used everything Code Veronica had with all the levels and stuff that you could go through. Right. But it also, I think because I think you got it for me, I think 1 year, and it actually had the Nemesis in it. Remember, there was a countdown timer, and you had to get to the end of the level, and if you didn't, the Nemesis would appear, and you had to try and avoid him, because if he got you, he would destroy you.
Aye, because the whole premise of that story, if I remember correctly, you're on an island similar to the one in Code Veronica.
Yeah.
And you were a child, weren't you? You weren't a child now.
No, that's no, I think that was Revelations 2. I think that was later on. But
No, you're thinking the one with Barry Burton.
Yeah.
No, the one, I think Gun Survivor 1, you played as a guy called Ark.
Yeah, that was on the PlayStation, yeah, but Survivor 2 actually was literally just a complete spin-off of Code Veronica. That was on the PS2, yeah. But then there was the other one. Did you play the other one, Dead Aim?
Aim, is that the one on the
one
boat?
that's on the boat, yeah. Yeah, it played like it was all like third person when you were moving around, but when you were interacting with enemies, like shooting them, it would go into like a first person light gun kind of thing.
Yeah, pretty much. It was sort of in the vein a wee bit. I found it to be a bit like what's the best way I could describe it? It felt like a bit like you were Time Crisis sometimes when you were shooting the zombies, but you would move your cursor along. And then I felt the bad guy was like the bad guy from Resident Evil 0. It was like a mishmash. To me, it felt like there loads of concept art hanging around the office, and I thought, we'll just throw it into the game. You know? But it was still good. I enjoyed it. It was pretty good.
It was fairly short. Like you get through it in about an hour and a half if you on a speed run. Like, but I'd say I enjoyed it as well. And the fact is, it was a different story as well. You know, which it was pretty cool. Like,
and new characters.
Yeah.
The story itself, like I was saying, never played, but did the story have any relevance to the actual story of Resident Evil?
It did, because the guy that Veddy mentioned, he was like a scientist for Umbrella, and what he was doing was he had stolen a lot of the research and even some of the bioweapons and the T-virus or whatever, and he was going to use it to sell on the open market or the black market. But what ended up happening was that's when they sent in the guys, like your man, what's his name, Bruce McGivern,
Bruce
the players.
McGivern,
yeah, and that's where he's sent in to try and stop him. And then there's another organisation that sends in some sort of Asian chick. Bet you like that as an alternative. Yeah,
it's my favourite.
Yeah, as an alternative kind of like agent from an opposing organisation to also try and retrieve data as well. So that's where the kind of the premise of the story takes place.
I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure the agency that this guy Bruce worked for is the agency Leon trained with after Resident Evil 2.
I think so. Yeah, it's a government.
Stratcom, that's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just reading here on Wikipedia about Dead Aim, and you're saying like Bruce is the protagonist, is he?
Yeah, he's the guy he plays. Yeah.
And Did you say there was like an Asian kind of?
Yeah.
There was. She was like Chinese.
Yeah.
Special forces or.
I
Something.
don't know if this is right. It looks like a spoof, but on Wikipedia her name is Fongling.
Oh,
That's it.
That's it. Yeah.
That's the, come
She
on.
was fondling Bruce. Oh, Jesus. So this Dead Aim came out on the PS2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen it or even played
No,
this.
I'm trying to think myself off just the top of my head. I don't think I've seen.
Yeah.
I
think I gave up.
Anyway.
I think I gave up after like Gun Survivor. It just wasn't for me. That kind of style of game, and I didn't play really even the what do you call it? The Code Veronica one. You mentioned it there, Peter.
Yeah, the Survivor 2, yeah.
Survivor 2, yeah. Don't think I ever played that. I think a lot of that's to do with I got a PlayStation 2 late into the PlayStation 2's life. I never really bothered with it for so long, so I missed all those games.
Well, David Smith, anything to do with Resident Evil, he was playing it. He was buying it. It made no difference if it was good, crap, and different.
That's to say, you didn't need to worry about buying it because the chances are I probably had it anyway. So,
But that's true, yeah. I just don't remember. I just, when I heard Dead Aim, I was like, I had to kind of search it there. And
I
have a
just
look.
don't even remember, to tell you the truth.
To me, Dead Aim reminded me a lot visually of Revelations 1.
You know, actually, when you think about it, it there's a lot. It just it has that same feel about it. So it does. Yeah. Because it's also on a tanker like a ship as well. So
I have Revelations 1. I've never played it yet. Don't judge me.
Wow. That's,
You know what?
That's incredible.
No, all I'm going to say is that is a hidden gem. Play that.
It really is.
No.
Yeah.
I know what happens in it because it's been ruined for me, but I'm still going to play it.
Still,
Just play it.
just
It's
experience
great.
it.
We can talk about that another time, but definitely play it. Definitely.
Yeah.
I was actually quite surprised how good it was, and I love the addition of the X-ray gun. I thought that was a really cool feature.
The one good thing I like about Revelations as well is the fact is like when we know when the things started to change from like survival horror to more action focus with Resident Evil 4. Don't get me wrong, Resident Evil 4 is an epic game, but Revelations was the one that kind of brought it back a little bit. But it was the one good game that had the good balance. It managed to balance survival horror with action, which is very hard to do, and they did manage to do that with that game. So yeah, it's definitely worth a try for sure.
I would actually prefer it over the sequel, Revelations 2.
Yeah, I do like Revelations 2, but yeah, I think the first game is the better of the two.
Yeah.
That's what gets me though. I don't get how Capcom cannot write Barry Burton right.
Yeah.
It's so annoying.
We had this discussion on the last episode where we talked about, you know, if RE1 got a modern day remake again, a second remake essentially, that they should add in, like, you know, once you complete the game standard with Jill and Chris, you unlock some sort of scenario playing as Barry. So let's move along to Resident Evil 0, which came out around 2002, wasn't it? Am I correct on that?
2000 what? 2000 early 2003. Because Resident Evil, the Resident Evil remake came out in I think September of 2002. Because remember, I bought because you had a dig, and I actually bought my Nintendo GameCube about a week later just to get it. So I did. Yeah.
It's mad, isn't it? Like I remember, like I only bought the GameCube for the strict reason of Resident Evil 0 and Resident Evil Remake 1. That was it.
Because I'll never forget that when Veddy was playing it, I took it down to the house and he played it pretty much for the first time, and me I sat at the far side of the room, and this is when you were still living in Newry, and I'll never forget it when you're walking in the hallway where you meet like the very first zombie in the game, but this is a wee bit further on, and you know the way the zombies could try to open doors, and you could hear the door clicking and opening. And I sat there and said nothing, and you were like, you were on edge, and literally you decided to go backwards because you thought the zombie was in front of you. You thought it was one of those Crimson Head zombies, and you backed up towards the door, and all of a sudden the door slammed open, and the zombie lunged at you, just raw, and you leapt off the bed. You threw the controller up in the air, and it nearly smashed off the floor. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like.
It's safe to say my mum had to go buy Daz all whites after that was done, and I gotta say I kind of feel, Peter, that was a receipt for Resident Evil 1 because I didn't tell you about the zombies or where they were going to come.
Yeah.
Especially the dogs, when the dogs come the first
Yeah, you
time
didn't
through the
actually.
window.
You did the same with me. So that was payback.
That was because I was sat that time when you were playing Resident Evil 1 and he's walking down the hall and I'm just like, any minute now.
Yeah, yeah, because I remember that as well actually. Because I freaked. I remember in your house when we first played the first Resident Evil, I did the same. I freaked when I seen the dogs. I didn't know what to do.
And the worst thing about Resident Evil 0 was when that first happens, you're in a train carriage, so it's like so compressed and tight. You're like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Like it's a it was a very good game, very good entry. Plus you got to play as Rebecca, which I thought was adding more to the lore. You're getting to see another side of it. And like obviously when you meet Billy as well, that sort of adds more to Chris's story too, in a way.
It does, yeah.
It's pretty cool.
What did you think of the dynamic character swap element?
I thought that was cool.
I actually liked it. Yeah.
Because you can't progress in the game without changing between characters. Like one character.
Yeah, you're working in tandem. Yeah.
Funny enough, just even when we're talking about Resident Evil 0, there was a couple of other games originally on the PlayStation just before we move forward. Do you remember, Vedi? There was a couple of games that were on it that had done that. I remember I had two of them. There was Martian Gothic Unification, and then there was Hard Age that allowed you to do that as well. Yeah, but you remember, Vedi, remember you had Overblood, because we didn't get to talk about that the last time.
Overblood,
and further into the game, Overblood also allowed you to have that dynamic where you could change characters at different intervals, and you needed to use the different characters in order to complete puzzles or to progress. Yeah. It's a similar element, like. And Overblood was a good game as well. I like that now.
Yeah, a good one.
Yeah.
No, I really enjoyed Zero. I thought visually it looked stunning. It was more or less like you're looking at the same engine as was used on Resident Evil 1 remake.
I enjoyed it myself. That's the truth.
And I love the fact that like it built up all to like Rebecca's story and how she ended up in the Spencer mansion, right?
Yeah.
That's how it went.
Plus, you get to see more on the other team as well. Like, what was the leader of Bravo team?
Enrico.
Enrico. You got to meet Enrico as well because you only ever get to meet Enrico once.
Yeah.
And he gets popped by Barry B. So it's good that you get to meet him and learn a wee bit more about him, before his demise and some of the other characters as well. Don't you meet Forrest later on as well, do you? Before he's dead?
Trying to remember.
No,
you don't meet him.
No, you don't meet Forrest, I don't think. But you do meet other members of the Bravo team that some of them didn't last long.
I'm nearly sure you meet Forrest before he's dead. I'm nearly sure. Or I've ran into him.
You know what?
The thing is,
you possibly could. I haven't played it in a long time.
You know what it was? Yeah, you know what it was? I was in the hallway of the mansion, or not the mansion. I don't know where it was. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong. But I could have sworn you see him walking towards the balcony where he actually dies on. He's saying he's got to go. So I'm pretty sure I've seen a clip somewhere.
I think you're right here. I'm just Googled it. It says he makes a cameo on it.
Yeah,
you probably sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure you see him and he's walking towards the balcony where you actually find his body. So, like, you see him heading in that direction, so you know, well, he doesn't make it too long after that, But it was, Anyway, sidetrack just there. Sorry about that.
All right. Yeah, I'm trying to think of other elements in the game. What did you think of the enemies in it? Do you remember that kind of leech kind of enemy? Did all come together and manifest into this?
I wasn't a big fan.
No,
to be honest.
I think a lot of people were not too pushed on
that. They were a nuisance as well.
I know they tried to do something different, but I just don't think it worked.
Because they were quite tough to kill as well.
Yeah.
That's what made it worse.
To me, it felt like it started getting a wee bit anime at some points, especially with the bad guy. He was, I don't know. I felt the first Resident Evil was sort of grounded in reality a wee bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you could say reality, but This guy, at one point, he's on top of the train with a long flowing coat, isn't he? And am I right or am I remembering?
Yeah, he's like a lot younger, and he's like longer hair and stuff like that.
He reminded me of a Sephiroth ripoff from Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to me, that's what I felt like. Oh, come on, we could have done better with that, But other than that, that's me nitpicking. But I thought the level was good. I thought the bit with the character development with Billy as well, who is a new character, and the whole way through the game, you're looking at him, sort of going like, "Is he a criminal? What has he done?"
Yeah, you
And then
just
you
didn't
find,
know. He's that kind of
Yeah.
is he guilty or is he not guilty? That kind of a
yeah, you know,
Yeah, he's another character I think that was underutilized, especially later on, because he was really good in that game, and I think they could have used him further in future series
Yeah.
and stuff like that. You know?
Yeah.
never know. Maybe he'll
Yeah.
pop up in the future.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I just think
I don't-
just go back, sorry, to Zero with the dropping of the items. Like, there was no storage box, and you see you always
Oh
had to
yeah,
backtrack.
I forgot about that dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you always had to backtrack. Say if you were
Yeah.
oh no, I know where I left. I had to go back and then go forward again. What do you think about that?
You definitely needed to have some sort of strategy in place or an idea of what you were doing. You know, to make use of all of those item placements. So at least that way, then you'd have everything close by
Yeah.
if needed. Like,
But it was different, but there was
Yeah.
an awful lot more backtracking than in previous Residents. But you know what? It actually didn't bother me, to tell you the truth.
oh, it's still a really good
It
game.
was something different, yeah.
Exactly, it was different. It didn't bother me.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You have to admire Capcom for trying different things throughout the franchise. Like,
Yeah,
even when you look at 7, like, they went first person again. And, like, I mean, everyone loves 7. It's a completely different vibe from 1. But at least that's what they're trying to keep I think, the franchise alive by innovating and being fresh.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's an early example of trying a mechanic. Yeah, it might not caught on. I'd rather them try than do an EA and just say, we're going to give you the same game, just different skin it and different location.
Yeah, and then just stop it, cut it off, then, and
Yeah,
don't talk about it again for nearly 10 years.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I think.
Oh,
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
It's a cut across. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to mention that I think Capcom are very guilty of following trends. Like,
Yeah.
when you think of Resident Evil 5, you know, they went for the Call of Duty.
They did want to, they wanted a piece of that as well.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that, you know, further in the episode, or maybe in the next episode, I wanted to kind of put to everybody, and is, you know, what's the core elements of a Resident Evil game? What's the DNA of a Resident Evil game?
Yeah.
And we can talk about that after we've discussed most of the games. But
Yeah.
I just think Capcom are quite guilty of following trends. I think a lot of game
A lot of
publishers,
companies are nowadays, yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Chasing that money, man.
That's
yeah,
it.
it's a pity.
That's it.
It's a pity,
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
But is there any more points to make about Resident Evil 0, or we move on?
No, I think that's basically it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay, so I think the next game in the timeline to talk about would be Resident Evil 4, which is
Waiting for this.
Yeah, well, this is the big one, isn't it? Like, this is, everybody classes this as the probably the definitive.
I know it was quite
Resident Evil.
controversial for you, Dig, because it took you a while to get into it.
Yeah,
compared to the rest of us.
I got it when
Only
it first came out.
likewise, that's the truth.
Yeah.
And I got to, you know the scene where you go to the village and
Yeah.
you fight the waves of enemies and the guy with the
Chainsaw.
I couldn't do it. I kept dying, and I gave up for a whole year. I just
I
said,
remember that because I was torturing you to play it, and you just wouldn't. You couldn't bring yourself to play it.
I think what happened was, so, you know, Resident Evil 4 was, there was a change in how the game was played, and no longer had static camera angles. Well, it still sort of had some element of tank controls, because you had to stop and shoot and turn on the spot type thing. But you fully 3D, but it introduced the over-the-shoulder camera perspective
I was just
for
gonna say,
third-person
that's what
shooter,
got me.
which is, yeah, and this is, I mean, this
A
was
long
the
time
game
to
that
use it.
introduced that, so it's used now all the time on third-person shooters.
Yeah.
But as you know, I could admire that it looked amazing, and it took me a little while to adjust to that kind of gameplay. But I just that whole set where you had to, and the funny thing is, all you had to do was just wait for the bell to ring,
Yeah.
run around and wait for the bell to ring. That was it. Just keep running away from them, and I did.
You just think
I
of
gave
it,
up.
so think about it. Going back to Resident Evil 1, when you, me and you did this, when said Snake, kill him for the second time, you dropped down the hole, and Barry says, wait till I get a rope. We didn't. The adventurer took over and went down. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, Barry throws down the rope to a different cutscene. We didn't know about it at the time. Same with Resident Evil 4. You didn't know that you had to wait. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You were just going around shooting, wasting your ammo, because you didn't know. You thought that's what you had to do, kill all the enemies, and that was it.
To be honest, that was just more fun anyway.
I remember how I found out. I ran out of bullets and I was hiding behind a cow. and I was just sort of like walking around the cow like some sort of like crappy action film. I was like, you can't get me.
Possibly me.
Yeah. But
But
then,
get past this.
Yeah, a whole year I didn't play that game, and I was
Yeah.
kind of like, it got to a point where I was like, this is not my Resident Evil. Give me back my static camera angles and pre-rendered backgrounds. But
agree.
I eventually did get back into it, and I absolutely loved the game. It's actually like, it's one of the biggest Resident Evil. I think it's probably a bigger game than Code Veronica. Would you agree? It
Yeah.
just seems to go on
Yeah.
and on and
Yeah,
on. You think,
it's huge.
this
It
game's
is
never
actually.
ending.
Yeah.
I think it is. But just going back to what you were saying, Diggs, I definitely would agree. Now, myself, Freddie, and Smith, you probably love it straight away, but myself, I was the same. I was so used to the other Resident Evils, control-wise, this fighting horror element, but to me, the way this one was going, just I couldn't get used to it. I hated it. No, just the exact same as you, down to a T. Just
Yeah.
couldn't
See,
play it.
for me, I transitioned pretty easy because I got into Devil May Cry.
I
Which
remember you had that, yeah.
And Devil May Cry was actually a beta test for a Resident Evil engine.
It was.
Actually became Dead Rising in the end. That's what the engine was used for.
The controls didn't body it.
No, because I was used to spinning the camera. And
Yeah, because Devil May Cry had very fast-paced gameplay anyway. So it did. So yeah.
So I got into that, and so when it changed, the only thing it was like you had to really be conscious of, I can't move when I'm aiming, so I have to like time my.
I do remember you actually taking down Devil May Cry when you got the first game one evening when we had the PlayStation 2, and I remember you were addicted to that. So you really got into that. So you did.
Majorly.
Yeah.
But like even going back to Resident Evil 4 and sort of going back to what you said earlier, Peter, in the little quick time or little sequences that would change the game. Did any of you ever save the dog?
Yeah.
I think all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. Yes.
Yeah.
That comes in handy later.
It does. Yeah.
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 Yeah, that was kind of a throwback to Resident Evil 1, right? Like,
It
well,
was, yeah.
You do one thing and it affects another
Yeah.
part later in the game.
Later in the game, because you're fighting that guy that looks like he's ripped from the pages of
Oh,
Lord of
the
the Rings.
El Gigante.
El Gigante. Look
Yeah.
at my muscales.
Yeah.
He didn't start it off, but then when you played the game, obviously you do the different way, whether you saved it or you didn't, you do the opposite to see what would happen.
Just
You
to see, yeah.
You did, yeah. Also, how many times did you die in the boulder?
Oh my god.
I
Yeah.
hate it. I hate
Yeah.
those quick time events.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I hate them as well.
And especially because the
several times.
GameCube controller, the GameCube controller was so different than
Yeah.
the standard
It
controllers.
was
Getting the
tough.
combination buttons.
Yeah.
Right, every
That's where I
time,
always
yeah.
got caught out.
For me, I enjoyed Resident Evil 2 as an experience far better on the PS2 than I did on just because of the controller alone. Because the GameCube one was weird. I had that big thing down the middle. It was like a
Yeah.
tail. It was weird. But no, I enjoyed it. Like, am I getting that right? Did the GameCube have a thing down the middle? Or am I
No,
getting-
That
was
was
the
the N64.
That was N64.
Yeah.
GameCube it had sort of like a traditional controller, but the right analog stick was a
Was
bit
high.
weird.
It was high
Yeah.
up or something. Yeah.
Yeah, the left stick was high up like you would get in the Xbox, but the right and I don't even know if you call it an analog stick because it was very kind of like it was
Like a
almost like a
D-pad.
digital.
It was-
like a digital.
You only really used it for navigating menus and stuff. It never really
Yeah,
had
yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember like the main button on the right hand side was like huge, wasn't it? And the other buttons were
Yeah, it
smaller
was.
around it.
Well, I do remember, like, say, just when you're mentioning about the N64, Resident Evil 2 did get a release on the N64 because I remember at the time when it did come out, it was considered a revelation because they never thought that it was actually possible that they could put
Cartridge, yeah.
on cartridge. Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
Mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's mad that somebody figured that out.
Mm.
But
I know
go ahead.
Go
Dave.
ahead. No, you go on ahead. I was only going to
I-
talk too.
No, I was just going to say, like, with Resident Evil 4, like, see when you were even going through the setup to it, you're in the car and you're seeing Leon this time, and, like, you're sort of getting a bit of the background, the president's daughter and all this jazz, right? And then the first scene is, like, the car crashes and you see the guys burning on the bonfire. Like, you're having, it did give you a very, like, Wicker Man vibes almost, you know?
Oh yeah. Oh, you
Yeah.
can tell. Yeah, the village setting, the village of crazies.
No, it was awesome. I loved it. I loved the whole secludedness of it, and like that you met a different. Again, there were so many different characters you met. You had Luis, isn't it, at the start,
Yeah. He's a
and
secondary.
then and then you bump into Ada, and then you had some good villains in Krauser, and like I remember that line when you fight the was it the wee midget dude Salazar, and he goes, "This is my right hand," and Leon goes, "Your right hand comes off." It's just such a cheesy line, but stuck
Yeah.
with me. It was good.
Yeah,
There's a lot of cheesy moments in that game, to be honest.
there is. Yeah.
But the first thing I wanted to talk about Resident Evil 4 is the fact that it's the first game to divert from the lore. The previous stories where it's not Umbrella anymore.
Yeah.
You know, moving along to a different virus. What was it? Las Plagas?
Las
Last
Plagas.
Plagas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Plagas.
No.
Slow.
Yeah, exactly.
Any of the, like say, there's obviously the slower and all the Resident Evils, but does any of them, does any of them ever reference the likes of that in them? Even like say 3, because obviously you 3 then 4, but did any of them have a reference?
Well,
Well,
previously.
The Last Plagas is also referenced in 5, especially early on.
Yeah.
it's in
How does
6 as
fight-
well.
It's in, I think it is in some cases. Yeah.
The ones previous, did anything, because even say 3, and then obviously then 4 come out, but anything ever say or hadn't happened in 3 about Las Plagas and
No, I think it was.
No.
I think it was all brand new.
Although in saying that, I remember there was a document just with the Resident Evil 3 remake. There was, when you go into the Umbrella Laboratory towards the end of the game, there was a document that Jill finds that mentions something about the Nemesis, but they actually found some sort of there's a mention of a parasite that said apparently that's able to control the host in the way that they can control it, makes it more intelligent. So I'm thinking that they may have used the Las Plagas. Maybe this is the way they could be tying in the story with the Resident Evil 4
Yeah,
remake.
with the remake.
Yeah. I think
that too,
I think that they figured out a way with the Nemesis to use Las Plagas on it so that it can make it more intelligent, so that it can think for itself, but also still be controlled at the same time. You know.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I do remember reading that document. There was something mentioning it.
Because the original Resident Evil 4, what the new, say, Las Plagas and all that, it's completely new. It's kind of lost. So going, right, where are they going with this? I thought like the virus, obviously it's just completely new.
Yeah, because when you look in the
What are they doing with this?
Yeah, because when you look at the context of the old games, like you mentioned, like there is a massive jump from 3, and then with 4, it just completely transitions into a different shift, and it doesn't do a full circle until really later games in the series, like Resident Evil 5 and 6, where it does come back to like Umbrella and so forth, where it kind of ties everything in. But I think that's where these remakes of the last couple of years have been doing, is to try and kind of piece all together leading up to Resident Evil 4, and I think they've actually done a good job with that.
And fill in the gaps and everything.
Yeah.
Does anyone remember the leaked footage of the Resident Evil 4? The progenitor virus when they're doing something completely different.
That version,
Hookman.
yeah. You know what? That would have been cool.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah, there was some elements in that that were brilliant. Yeah.
It had supernatural elements.
Yeah. It was like
Yeah, it had
hallucinations or
McDonald's,
something like
wasn't
that. Yeah. It's almost like Silent Hill in a way.
It was a wee bit like
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
I wonder, you know the way with Resident Evil 2 remake, they brought some of 1.5 into that. You know, like the underground car park and stuff like that.
And Claire had Elsa Walker's costume. Yeah.
So I wonder, with the remake 4, will they take back someone like the Hookman or something like that, or maybe some elements from the cancer?
I think it would be cool if they did manage to like incorporate some of those elements. I think it would be pretty cool if they did, for sure.
Right, so go ahead, Mark. You were going to say something.
No, I was just going to say something silly. I think if I remember correctly, there's an Easter egg to The Walking Dead in the Resident Evil 2 remake. You know the sheriff that's getting eaten? Yeah. If you look at his badge, it's the name's Officer Grimes for Rick
Right,
Grimes.
yeah. I never actually noticed that. That gives me an excuse to go back and have a look.
Yeah.
Pretty sure. I think it was Grimes. It's either that or there's another one later on, but there is a Rick Grimes reference. And
Doesn't Leon get an outfit that's very similar?
yeah, it's the exact same. You can unlock that one. Yeah,
That's cool.
so it is.
No, the next point I wanted to make about Resident Evil 4 is, and it was I remember at the time when it was announced, it was quite controversial that they were moving away from zombies as enemies. So
Yeah.
can you remember how you felt when you heard that, and then when you got that finally play the game, how did you feel then?
Well, to tell you the truth, just even before I say that, just going back to the survival horror element, obviously zombies, but to me, they took that out, but it was making it more action to me.
Well, that's true, yeah.
And to me, it kind of put me off straight away. It's not even what put me off even the over the shoulder look, because I was so used to the controls from the previous Resident Evil. But the fact is that it was making it more action based. I didn't like it, and being honest, I didn't want to like it, and I didn't want to play it. But because it was Resident Evil, I kind of forced myself to play it, and I did, and I enjoyed it in that. But the fact is that there was no zombies. No, it just didn't grasp for me. It really didn't, and that's just my opinion. But it didn't do it for me.
Well, for me, I think the first time when I played it, now the transition, like Vedi there as well, for me it was pretty straightforward as well. But there was a point within the first hour or two when I did play it, it did kind of feel a bit underwhelming that there was no zombies in it. I had to get used to the idea that, that there was none in it. But then, to be honest, but once I got into it, like, I pretty much was hooked straight away. Honestly, I just found it to be just really just gripping. And it has done full circle when you think about it. When you look at the Resident Evil 2 remake, that it brought that back with the over the shoulder, but then you had the zombies instead of the Las Plagas. So at least you have that. At least it showed that it is possible to do that, and they done it exceptionally. When you think about it too. So yeah.
Even
What
when
about you, Mark?
Oh, sorry.
My take, when obviously I love zombies, man. Grew up in a massive George A. Romero head. Loved all the old zombie films and stuff. So when I heard there was no zombies, I was like, I'm not so
It's
sure.
kind of a put off, isn't it?
It was a bit of a put off, but the story sort of reined you back in a bit, you know. Like when you get past the initial town bit, I was still unsure. When I met Luis, I was still unsure. But when you start getting further into it, like when you meet Ada, and then you start to find out that this is actually something bigger, and the story reins you back in. And then you have all the previous stuff with Leon and Krauser. You want to see Leon kick Krauser's ass because you know it's coming, and it makes you want to finish the game. Plus, when the minute Ada shows up, you're immediately thinking, "Where's Wesker? Is Wesker here?"
Yeah.
So immediately then that's your tie into the old game. You're like, right, well, I got to stick with this now. Let's see where this is going to go. And that for me was one of the drawing points. One of the negatives was I hated Ashley. I think everyone hated Ashley.
Yeah.
I really hope the remake addressed that, because she's a pain in the hole.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I would much like how her tucked away for most of the remake, please, Capcom. Have her that we only rescue her at the end.
Yeah.
Probably not going to happen. But see all the parts that you have with her, let it be cutsy. You can just watch it. You don't even have to control it. You know what I mean? And
I know.
just leave it at that.
Yeah.
My worry is
it.
they'll try and do a Resident Evil 5, and they'll go, "Oh, you can play as Ashley," and I'll be like, "Who wants?"
God, here we go again.
I mean, the small section that you do play as her in the original release, it's short enough that you can just say, "Oh, well, thank God for that."
Yeah, get it over and done with.
But it's yeah, but it's there's elements in Resident Evil 4, like you can put her into it's like a bin, isn't it?
Yeah, hiding spots. Yeah,
she can hide. Yeah, like that's not too bad. But when you're out in the open, and like there was some elements, like when you're in the castle and she has to operate the cranks to raise the bridge. They're frustrating at times.
Yeah.
But it's just I always feel like when she gets captured again, it's like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, I can breathe.
Yeah, I can enjoy it again, not babysitting.
Yeah,
but like
one of them catches her and throws her over his shoulder, and he walks away near down with a sniper rifle. I
know.
hated that part. I really did.
I just sitting there going, "You can keep her."
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care.
I was playing it actually during the week, and it was that part where she operates the crank to raise the bridge in the castle. I forgot. There was one of them grabbed her, and I forgot I had the rocket launcher.
Yeah, you forgot.
Yes, yeah.
The president's gonna be out.
Yeah, the hidden agenda.
Yeah.
Oopsie. Ringing the president. Well, looks like you don't have to pay child support. Jesus.
I just want to go back to what Freddy was saying, and I agree 100% what he was saying. Starting off like with zombies, and you see like the villagers and the turned and blah blah. No, it just didn't do it for me. But the further I went on, and it wasn't until I got to the castle, and it's like you're nearly walking up like steps, like a winding steps to like kind of like a balcony type thing, and then you can hear voices.
Oh yeah, the monks. Yeah.
They were.
That was freaky as hell.
I'm going, oh shit, where are they? Where are they? You can hear their voices. You say, oh, they have to be Neo. They have to be
Was-
Neo. Oh, that got me hooked. Then you know what I mean?
Telling you.
It was very smart. It was very clever element, but they always had that in Resident Evil games. You
Yeah.
the hunters with the clicking sounds,
Yeah.
and the
The
zombies
The
shuffling.
lickers.
Get that.
The lickers, you'd hear the lickers just breathing in the hallway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I thought
Yeah,
it
ramps
was
up the
dead
tension.
it
monks.
does.
Was that
Exactly.
the proper name in the game? Just monks. They weren't called that now.
Don't really know what they were called.
Ganado.
Ganado. Yeah.
Yeah, I must actually look at the files in the
There's
game
ones in,
because
say, like a black outfit, and there was other ones then with clean.
the red.
Yeah,
Do you remember
Hope.
the guys in red looked like Quan Chi from Resident Evil, right?
He did.
Yes, they did.
Of Mortal Kombat, yeah.
I just
Oh
thought
yeah,
that
sorry,
was
what did I
cool.
say?
thought we
Yeah,
should-
Mortal Kombat. Yeah, so
I'm looking
Yeah,
up
did-
to see what ganado is in Spanish to English.
aye, zombie.
And,
But
But just them voices when you go into the castle and say, "Whoa!"
it was good, yeah.
I thought that was deadly, and that's what kind of got me going. Whoa!
here, ganado in Spanish means cattle.
Right.
Yeah.
They're a bunch of cows.
They're a bunch of
Oh,
cows,
no.
man.
Well, they follow the herd.
Well, that's probably the premise, you know.
Yeah. That's the
Yeah.
premises,
They're
yeah.
sheep.
Yeah.
They're like
They're just a herd.
cows.
Yeah.
Oh, ready,
Under control.
ready for the slaughter, mate. You know.
Mm.
So in other words, they weren't go. That's Spanish. In other words, in English, they were going moo.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
So
But sorry, before you go on, who remembers like I got something for you?
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. He was brilliant, and he better be in the remake
You
too.
better be, mate. You
I know
better
I
be.
was new into the game, but like, where did he come from? Because like, what is he for? Don't get me wrong, he was brilliant in the game.
Hopefully they actually go into some sort of origin concept to to give you at least some background as to where
Stranger, yeah.
where he came from.
I know his origin story. He was an Amazon dropshipper from Barcelona.
With a Cockney accent.
Oh, mate. Yeah. I've got something for you.
Yeah.
It's on sale, stranger.
I know.
Yeah, his
you
father
can-
was
you
English.
can- But you can see though when you look at him, he's clearly infected by Las Plagas because his eyes are glowing.
Yeah.
So he's obviously, well, I was going to say he's a local, but he's not a local. So yeah,
I just
Yeah,
like
they
to
are-
know more about him because he came into the game and it never had that element in the game. So just curious to see what we're able to go about it this time. I suppose we'll have to play the remake to find out.
Well, the introduction of him coincides with the introduction of currency in the game. You know, that turned it into more of an arcade kind of
His reduction
element
yeah.
to the game. You know, previous games, the only thing you would upgrade your character, like, you know, you had the attaché case and you could buy.
That was
pick up
one of the things I liked
versions.
about it the most as well, is the strategy using the case where you had to organize all of the items.
Yeah.
You know, and you had to be really strategic with it and what you use at a different point. I always love that element about the game.
Just going back to as you said there, like they were trying to change different things each Resident Evil. Like obviously before, like you look at the ones previous, you had to find the ammo and find your this and that. Now this one with Resident Evil 4, you could buy them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You find
Well, you could-
coins
yeah.
around the place and this and that. You could.
Which is kind of
Find
like
coins.
when
Yeah,
you
it
think
is.
about what we talked about in the last episode, where in Resident Evil 1, because, well, you know, it didn't hold your hand, so you could get to the end boss with about 7 bullets in your Beretta.
Yeah, that's it.
I'd actually
Well,
rather that.
and in Veddy's case, you only had 2.
But then when I ran out of my
And
2
put them in.
bullets, I pulled a
At least you-
knife.
Yeah.
A knife.
Butter knife. It spreads well.
I got a knife and a drawer full of, well,
Nothing.
undesirable brown stuff. But other than that, I'm ready to rock and roll.
Brown stockings.
Right, I tell you.
This is just me speaking, but I think I'd rather that instead of actually buying.
Yeah, but
Upgrades and all
it
that.
kind of fixed that element where you didn't get stuck then and the game was rendered. You had to start again, I suppose. But
I suppose when you think about it, yeah.
yeah, but
see,
it was good.
I think the gaming industry as a whole, at the risk of sounding really ancient here, they've made games easier for the casual player coming in.
They have.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think you're right, but when you play games like Elden Ring and Bloodborne and Demon Souls, like they just
Yeah.
I knew you were
You-
going to say that.
I
knew
just
you were
avoid
gonna say
them.
Who you are, you're going to have.
they
to
are
challenge.
tough. They are
Yeah.
really tough. Like, I mean, the Elden Ring is a much easier game to
Never played
pick up
any.
and play compared to Bloodborne. It's Bloodborne you just die all the time in that game, and you have to accept that that's the type of game it is. You're going to die a lot.
I've seen that. I've seen that. Basically, somebody says it's the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu of video games, you're going to suck at it for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, so it's,
But-
I don't know if I'd have the patience for that.
No, I wouldn't.
See, it's meant
No.
to have the patience
But
to
the-
backtrack,
one thing I'd
level
say
up
is
or
it-
do whatever, you know.
Yeah, one thing I'll say about those games is that I guess when the more difficult the game is and you complete it, you feel
The
even
reward.
better.
Yeah,
You
the
know, the
reward.
reward is
Yeah,
greater.
Yeah.
But I would agree with you in terms of Resident Evil that they kind of dumbed it down a lot, you know, to help people, like, because we mentioned that actually in the last episode that Resident Evil 2's puzzles were pretty much non-existent. They were so easy.
Yeah, they were a lot easier. 3 was definitely much harder. So it
Why
was.
they did it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
I
and
don't know
I
what
think
audience they were trying to aim for.
yeah,
But it's the
People love
same.
Resident Evil. Yeah, give them what
It's
they want.
it's the same though when you even look at films. You look at Alien 1. It's essentially the whole basically the premise of Alien
Yes.
is it's a haunted
Yeah.
house in space.
I was
Yeah.
thinking
Right.
of this the other day
Yeah.
too.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And then when you get to Aliens 2, it's let's get a load of Marines and machine guns and we're going to blow up everything. You know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then they go for number 3, we'll go back to the haunted house a wee bit. And then number 4, it's like, let's forget about number 4.
Didn't exist.
Yeah.
But you're right.
uh,
I was actually thinking about that during the week. Like that, Aliens 1 is like your Resident Evil 1, and then Aliens 2 is like Resident Evil 2, all out of
Yeah.
action.
There last week I was playing cool. It was you know the way like there's loads of like old school Resident Evil mods. It was that other the Resident Evil channel, you know, Residents of Evil. They were playing it, and I managed to look at one of their videos, but I found a download link to play this. It's like different chapters. There's a guy that does a load of cool old school Resident Evil mods, and he uses the old school, the whole Resident Evil engine. Essentially, it's the full game, but it's on a different kind of format where Hunk is in it at the start. And he's another guy with him that they think is an informant, and Hunk is sent to kill him, but he lets him live because he realizes that his sister was one of the researchers as part of the outbreak and the T-virus in the original mansion. So it kind of takes a different dynamic. But the backgrounds and everything have changed because you go into the guardhouse and the guardhouse is completely overgrown with leaves and shrubbery and stuff like that, but the plant is back in it, and then obviously then the hunters are there, but they're completely different, they're malformed. It's like as if you can see a transition from a zombie into like them kind of like chimera kind of things later on, although in saying that they actually had Crimson Head zombies in it as well at different points. They scared the crap out of me. So they did, and these guys literally lunged at you and they jumped in the air and tried to swipe your head off. So yeah, they were tough. You see, when you realize it was a Crimson Head in an old school Resident Evil game, you were like, oh my god, you know. But it allowed you to go through different areas because even you know, when you're going into the area with the shark and you have to get the key to get all the ammo and stuff, that was one of the things you had to do. But you remember those boxes that you usually had to push into the water to get across that wee bridge area. What this mod allowed you to do is you didn't have to cross that at all. What it did is allowed you to go down that big hole that was in the ground, and it was actually an underground cavern that you needed to use to escape, to get out. So there was, which is pretty cool. It was a different kind of idea on it. And what it done was it allowed you to also go outside the mansion. There was actually a lighthouse that was outside of the gardens in the mansion that you went outside. And you needed to get to there because it kind of based itself off of the books that we talked about the last time. You know, where
Caliban Cove.
you actually, but it was based on the actual Resident Evil Spencer mansion. And it was a lighthouse about not even half a mile away from the mansion itself on the far end of the mountain. But when you went into it, you found your man Trent that was in the books, and he gave you an outlay of importance of the story and stuff like that. So then that's where you went back in and you went to find your sister. Now I can only get some way through the game because when you're going through the caverns, you had to keep fending off these kind of malformed hunters. But the problem was every door you went through, it was always locked. The sister would have to unlock the door, and then what ended up happening is you'd have to fend them off, but you would run out of ammo. But you're literally, every time they get hit, they hit you once, and then the next swipe, your head had come clean off. It was super, super hard, super aggressive. But I couldn't finish it because the game kept crashing on me at that point. So I couldn't actually finish it. I'd get to the third door and then the game would just crash. So yeah, I just left it at that. Yeah, but it was really cool. Like, it's technically a full game, you know. So because I was playing it for a good 3-4 hours there last Saturday. So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So
Sorry for
No, that's
You're all right.
But I know it's we've a mixed reaction with the Las Plagas and the way they turned, and what we played before, zombies. But when it comes to bosses in RE4,
Yes.
how
I know what you're
how
going to
did you
say.
find
That's
them?
that's what
And
I was
how
just
hard?
about to move on to. Yeah.
How did you find them, and how hard did you think they were? Was it easy, hard, or
Some of them were ridiculous.
Well, for me,
the
the
actual
best.
mechanics of it?
Well, the
I know-
best
I know
boss
what you're
I
going
thought
to
in the
say,
game.
Diggs. I know what you're going to say.
Well, it's Mendes.
Yes.
Chief Mendes.
Yeah.
He's
in the
brilliant.
barn, he was my
But they-
favorite boss. They killed him
Yeah.
off way too
Yeah,
soon.
too
Yeah.
soon. Way
Too soon.
He,
Yeah.
he could have been their Mr. X or Nemesis.
Yes,
To me,
Yeah.
that
exactly.
was another version of Mr. X. I thought he was deadly in it. I really
Mm.
did.
Yeah.
But you said he was cut off too soon.
Yeah, I mean, you meet him early in the game and you fight him early in the game, in the overall scale of the game. But yeah, in terms of other bosses, like El Gigante was like, holy crap, like the size of that thing was just... Remember, that was a big feature in all the previews about
Yeah.
the game, that look at the size of this thing you're going to fight in Resident Evil 4.
You're hiding in the
But-
house, getting ammo, and he breaks it.
Mm.
Oh, where are we going to hide?
But overly, he wasn't that hard. I felt Mendes was, you were locked in that barn, the barn's on fire.
Exactly. Yeah,
Plus,
yeah.
am I right or wrong, Peter or you, one of you tell me, right? See the logo on Sadler's thing? That's Mendes when he's fully outstretched, isn't it?
Something like this, but yeah, actually, yeah. When you think of it, yeah, when he fully extends himself, when he goes into his true form, that seems
The
yeah.
insignia, is
The
it?
insignia is very it's very like the insignia.
Yeah,
Actually, now when you think of it,
When
yeah,
you think about it.
yeah.
Yeah, when you think about
No, you're
it.
right.
I never actually thought of it that way.
Because part of me thinks, right, because Mendes' character looked very unique. I felt he looked more unique even than Sadler. I felt Sadler was...
They're all
the air-
crap, to be honest.
Yeah,
You know.
I felt like basically, I thought Mendes should have been the main boss, the main baddie.
I thought he was
And-
deadly in it.
Yeah, they missed
He
the
looked
trick
the
there.
part.
He could have been the one to follow you throughout the game,
Yeah.
like the Nemesis and Mr. X. That would
Yeah.
have been pretty cool.
Because he was
I thought
definitely
that
one of the
was going to be
best.
the same as that. Like the
Yeah.
Nemesis or Mr. X. I actually thought that he was.
Yeah, because he was definitely one of the best characters in the game. I thought. Yeah.
Do we not fight him again as a scorpion, or am I getting confused?
Spider or something.
No, you do fight. There's a part in caves, isn't it, where you
Yeah.
fight?
Yeah,
I don't think that's him, but if
No,
I
it's not him,
remember
no.
correctly.
it's
No.
not him. No.
No,
No.
but I can see why you think that,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
that's sort of like what he turned into, right?
yeah. But like I say, they did when you were bringing up bosses. I was going to bring it up if you didn't, because I felt that was a missed opportunity big time.
Yeah.
To have a really good, because like you need to have a good antagonist. Like see, like Salazar, he was just annoying as frig. You just wanted to kill him and move on. Although
Yeah.
his henchmen were rather interesting.
Yeah.
I wanted to kill him because of his squeaky voice.
Oh yeah, they were the guys in the cloaks with
Yeah,
yeah.
They
They were good, actually. They were one of the better kind of like boss
Yeah.
fights.
like when you had to use the liquid nitrogen to slow them down.
I'd slow him down.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Like I thought that was good.
Yeah, that was quite terrifying fighting them actually.
It was because you're in a
When
quite
you had to say you
confined
get them into
space.
like a furnace, wasn't it? To blow them in and then close the door and then whatever, turn it on to kill them. Am I right?
That's
Yeah,
right, yeah.
you have to go to one of the rooms to turn on the power for the elevator or something, and that's where you come across those guys
Yeah.
kind of chasing you about the place.
If
And there's lots
you-
of quick time events with them.
Yeah, if you had the rocket launcher and you were able to use those nitrous canisters on them, you would blow them to smithereens.
Yeah, that's what I done the other
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
Kaboom.
Yeah, but the
What do you
trying to
think of
think
the one
what-
in the water when you're on the boat when you throw the spears?
yeah, that wasn't bad. It was very, very arcadey, wasn't it? Like,
Yeah,
but
Yeah.
it wasn't bad. I can't even remember the name of that enemy.
I can't even remember the name of that enemy. To tell you the
this week on Greatest Catch.
Deadliest catch.
That's a deadliest catch. I don't know. It was just a river monster, wasn't it? Isn't that when you get first infected? Isn't it? When
Yeah, not long after. Yeah, not long
You're right,
after.
yeah.
Yeah,
truth. Yeah, it wouldn't be.
Yeah,
bad.
because it's daytime, isn't it, when you arrive?
yeah, because
Yeah.
he has a seizure or something like that, doesn't he? And he passes out.
he does,
Yeah, just as he gets to land, isn't it?
Yeah.
When he gets off the boat,
Yeah.
he collapses.
Yeah,
That's it. That's it.
Yeah,
But,
the
The part I hated, this is probably skipping around. I can't if there's boss. Don't say Krauser.
I loved it.
I
the quick
hated
thing
fighting him.
event.
I loved it.
I hate it.
I don't mind it
Times I
playing it
hate
now.
It annoys.
But playing it on the GameCube with
with the control,
was
because
very difficult.
because the way, unlike the PlayStation where it had like just the sensitivity wasn't there, but on the GameCube it had like a spring action on the shoulder button, so sometimes it just didn't react to the input, and that's where you get caught out. That's what I found.
The way it started Resident Evil 4 wasn't gripping me, and then I was coming to grips with it, and then come near the end and you're fighting him. I just went back then to the very start going, I'm not liking this anymore.
I didn't mind fighting. The second fight with him was much better, I thought.
Is that the one when you're on like the gold or the big metal thing and you have your knives thrown, or is that the first fight?
The first fight is all quick time events, if I'm right, and then the second fight is out on that kind of
the sand thing.
Well, you have objectives to do as well.
The last fight I always found was the hardest with him.
Right, yeah.
Because he gets the bow. He's using his bow, isn't he?
Yeah.
Is that the one that I'm talking about then? Is it?
Well, the last one is when his arm transforms and he has this big like kind of like wing for an arm.
Yeah.
And he keeps blocking all your shots, and you keep shooting him in the leg. It's the only way that you can incapacitate him enough so that he can expose his body so that you can unload on him.
Was he an ex-partner or something of Chris? Because I can't think of him.
No, Leon.
Leon.
Leon. Was he an ex-partner of Leon's?
Yeah, if you played, the one that we had, you had it on the Wii, the Dark Side Chronicles. There's actually a separate origin story in that where it actually shows Krauser and Leon actually in a mission together somewhere in I think it's in Africa or one of those countries, and that's where I think that's what happens with Krauser. That's where you find out what happens to him, where he goes missing. After that, it was one of Leon's earlier missions before Resident Evil 4. Like,
I was just thinking of that. If Leon said he has to be an ex-partner, because I just couldn't remember, like, why is he there? You know what I mean? Going, the first thing that popped into my head, he has to be an ex-partner.
Was Krauser linked with Sadler, or was it through Grenada?
Through Grenada, yeah.
You see, this is what makes me think Sadler isn't the true bad guy of that game, because you've got so many people there. Like, I always felt that Mendez was supposed to be the baddie because he was on all the cover art. The logo was basically him outstretched, and I feel like they changed it at the last minute, maybe.
As a swerve.
His character alone and the way he looked, that would make you want to buy the game alone, because he looked absolutely class, and obviously the mutated form, he was the main man, and I think that was probably their selling point, really.
It's interesting when you look at him when you look back at the images of Mendez. It's kind of like you look at Kratos now in the God of War games and the big beard and everything. It's
a resemblance, isn't it?
Resemblance,
He gave me Rasputin vibes for some reason.
Yes, you're right.
He gave me just Rasputin vibes, man.
Rasputin from
just Russian.
That's a whole other thing. That's not even to do with video games.
We're not even talking about that here.
You referenced that he looks, say, God of War. I'm going, he actually fucking does. But,
the big beard.
But to me, he was the standout character. Thinking that
he definitely was.
We all agreed like a Mr. X or Nemesis and follow you. It just didn't happen, unfortunately.
It's a pity.
But
go ahead, no.
No, you go ahead, no.
I was just going to say about the other bosses. Well, you've Salazar and Sadler, right? So Salazar, I hated him. I'll just be honest, I hated him. Midget, squeaky voice and all that. I was like, oh jeez, what the hell is this supposed to be? But I really did not like him. And I know obviously he's going to be in the remake, and I hope they can write him much better. That he's not going to
do a better job with him for that.
Make him taller.
I know, man. What about Sadler?
Sadler, he was just your typical movie bad guy. Like, he didn't have a lot of development to him. Like, I understand he was like a local or native to the area and stuff. I really hope to go more into depth about the local people and show you a wee bit about all that stuff, in the new one. Like, because they could definitely cut out some of the Ashley stuff and fill it more world building, I think, for the new one.
Yeah, because sorry,
I felt to see what way they'll do it, But,
because I felt Sadler was like, even when he transformed at the end, it was like, it's the standard Resident Evil form.
Yeah, it goes over the top with the last boss. Yeah. Yeah.
They love those huge eyes, don't they? It's like
They do. They love the eyes.
Just when I'm thinking of it there, though, because there was a part in the original game where you were in underground, we were in the caverns, and it was like a mining section. And when you looked at different areas, there was elements of like remnants or like fossils of old parasites based off Las Plagas. So obviously because it mentioned in the game that I think that the parasite has always been there. It's been like centuries old, but it's been lying dormant for someone to obviously reinvigorate it or whatever. Yeah. So
There's
that
plenty of notes about that.
yeah, so the one thing I would like if it's possible in the remake where they do dive into that a little bit more, where maybe they play like a cutscene or something like that kind of dives back or goes back in time to give an outlay of it.
Could you imagine like a cutscene or even a separate game or DLC for the game set in the 1940s during World War II or whatever, and these guys discover a cave and all these Las Plagas in it, and they all get infected, and then it's basically, they end up sealing themselves in a cave or something, and then it cuts back to modern day, and they find all these dead soldiers, and they're like, what's this? But their bodies are the hosts for the Las Plagas,
There is one of the Resident Evil games, I think it's 5, or there's one of them anyway, that I remember that there was a document or there was something that stated it was to do, because with Resident Evil 5 apparently Chris found the early strain of the progenitor virus that was set up to use as the T virus, and there was mentions of it that it was founded way back about 40 or 50 years beforehand, with Spencer and someone else during their early days, and then they started to develop it, and that's where they built the Umbrella Company as a front to try and use as a front for the experiments and stuff like that. So like I agree with that, Veddy, that it would be interesting to kind of go back to that kind of era and even talk about it from a different kind of standpoint. It'd be interesting if they do that, for sure.
Yeah, it mentions it in Village.
Yeah.
Village. Yeah, because that's how it ties into Resident Evil. It talks about Spencer. He went to that. Do you remember at the end of Village where you go to that platform, and it almost looks like, is there benches or something, or
there is, yeah.
Yeah, and it talks about Spencer was there. And if I remember correctly, it's the Mother Miranda as well.
Yeah,
he was interested in all that kind of stuff. That's where I felt the Village tied back to the Resident Evil lore then at that point. But yeah, you're right. And I think in 4 it mentions that the Las Plagas had been lying dormant in the ground.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah.
And somebody dug it up, and that's why they were mining, right?
Yeah,
they were looking for it.
Yeah.
I have a question about Resident Evil 4 in specific. Would you agree that if they took out Leon, Ada, and certain elements like the herbs, combining herbs and stuff like that, do you think they could just have rebranded that as a completely different game, not Resident Evil? Yeah. I was thinking that, like, it's
like another
there's
survival horror game, or just a completely
any kind of game, really, to be honest, because like there's no zombies in it.
I'd probably say
like, I mean, Leon's in it, so that makes it Resident Evil, or ties it to Resident Evil. Ada's in it, but when you think of like
fans anyway, just him
like they moved away from zombies. They moved to, like, I don't think Umbrella's really in the game, if I remember correctly. It might be in some documents.
As far as I know, after the events of Resident Evil 2 and 3, Umbrella's gone as a company, really, aren't they? They're just sort of...
they've been... I think they kind of go underground, right?
But like as a trading company, like something...
they're dead. They're basically dead, but somebody's carrying on, isn't it, in the background somewhere?
Yeah. So like from the mainstream, people would be like, "Oh, well, Umbrella doesn't exist anymore; they're gone." To me, like I would feel like if you took away like all the Resident Evil aspects, such as characters, the over-the-top bosses, like if you only had the Las Plagas in it, it's basically The Thing. I don't know if you have ever seen that film, The Thing.
Yeah. Oh, well, I know that was The Thing. John Carpenter's
The Thing.
Yeah,
I did see it.
Kurt Russell.
I did see
brilliant film. But it's basically what it is. You've got this parasite that wants to spread and take over. That's a horror. That's a horror game right there. You could probably even make it more suspenseful if you focused on the parasite just like being like the thing, that would be terrifying. You know what I mean? You wouldn't trust any
yeah,
characters you
If you
meet.
focus on that, you could make a real survival horror game. No doubt about it.
So I have one other question, right? So from the start of the game right up until you end up going to the island, would you say that whole portion of that game is survival horror or just action horror?
Action horror.
Yeah, probably more action horror. Yeah,
Because certainly when you get to the island, it turns a wee bit more kind of survival horror.
yeah,
The regenerators.
Oh, Jesus.
yeah.
They're terrifying. I was playing
Yeah,
it the
yeah.
other evening, and I was talking to Peter when I was playing it, and I was getting really anxious when you'd hear, because I had the headset on because I was chatting, and you could hear them like sniffing and shuffling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get up, dog.
Especially the background music as well that plays when they're in the area too. That's
Yes.
creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It is.
very
It's so
creepy.
good.
Yeah,
But the fact that you have to kind of use the thermal lens on the sniper,
The sea. The sea.
to
was-
see,
yeah.
but you don't get that. Oh, you get that, isn't it? And then as minute you get that thermal scope, that kicks
It's on.
off.
It's
That's
on.
Yeah,
the one that's lying on the table in the other
Yeah.
room gets up. Oh,
That's when you know
They're-
you're
they're
in
going-
trouble.
yeah, they're going to be terrifying in the remake.
Oh, they are.
Remake,
They are.
Definitely are.
Oh,
They're
Christ.
gonna be something.
I wonder what they'll chuck in. They'll definitely put something in there, like a
Yeah.
wee tweak that'll make it worse for sure.
I'm just hoping that it's obviously the same basics, but to add more to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's what everybody wants.
And what did you think of the enemies then on the island? The soldier guys, you know, they had the
they
gas
were
masks and-
a nuisance, especially the
Yeah.
bigger lads that came in later with the Gatling guns. They were.
Yeah.
Oh, I hated them.
Distance, all right, but
yeah, and the guys
They took
with the cattle
ages
prods.
to put down.
Oh,
Yeah,
I remember them now. Yeah.
See, that's the only thing that annoyed me about 4. It seemed to just breed those enemies for 5 and 6. Those like annoying, like let's throw a roundhouse
Yeah.
kick at their head enemies, or let's superplex them, or something like a German. Like I felt they were just like they weren't scary. You knew like if you timed it right, you could kick them on their head, and then you just stamp their head in. That's it. Done.
Yeah.
The guys with the guns were more annoying. Although I do want to say, rest in peace, Chopper Pilot. You were an absolute hero. You
Yeah.
did save. He was like, "I'll buy you drinks back at the bar." No, you won't. No.
So there's one other enemy that we've actually failed to mention, and he was terrifying, and he was kind of iconic, really, when you think about it. The chainsaw guy.
Oh my
yeah,
god.
yeah.
How
yeah.
did we
The
like?
fact, yeah, like he's not invincible, but he is really strong.
tough. Yeah,
Well,
Yeah.
Him earlier, and do what I was thinking of. Remember, you're like on the carriages, the cart,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
and then all of a sudden you're maybe 2 carts, just about 2 or 3 carts ahead, and then all of a sudden he drops, and maybe the one second one in front of you, and you go, oh no, am I going to?
yeah. So you're panicking, trying to see what weapons you have that you can use
I know,
the
yeah.
least. Yeah, unless we get caught out.
I remember playing it like when you first meet him in the village.
In the village,
And,
yeah.
I jumped in this top window and I'm like, ha, got away from you. Next of all, I just see this ladder go, whoop, and I'm like, what?
And then he climbs up. Yeah,
That's a good point, because the fact you thought, oh well, I get away now from these, but no, there was no getting away from any.
no,
of the
they
enemies.
were super clever. Like
And there
Yeah.
was a chainsaw woman as well, wasn't there?
Yes,
there was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
later
later
yeah.
on, yeah.
Later on,
That
yeah.
was-
A granny.
A granny.
Yeah.
She was
Granny's
a
house.
granado. She was a granado. But like as you say about he had a very Texas Chainsaw Massacre sort of vibe to him. Like
Oh
the,
yeah.
the white shirt, the brown trousers, and the mask. Just that it was like a corn sack with a hole.
Yeah, it was
cut
just
in
like,
it.
yeah. It was really like,
Such a simple design, but it's terrifying. You know what I mean? It's
I
that
did like
whole.
about it, once you have the chainsaw going and you say, oh, this ain't good, and then all of a sudden he dropped, you knew
Yeah.
one way or another you had to run. Doesn't matter
Or-
what direction you were running, you
Or,
were
or,
fighting.
or the worst thing, what I did one time, I went into a room that I thought only had a doorway in. It was 1-on-1. I'm like getting ready to make my last stand. And all I can hear is do, 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 do. I could hear the chainsaw. I'm like, he's going to be coming in. And then all I hear is, and I turn around, he's behind me. And just cuts me. He came in through a window behind me that I didn't know was there. And I got cut to bits. And basically, I was like, this game is going to cause me to have an anxiety attack. 'Cause it was like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just that opening scene in the village is just, it was terrifying. And I got so frustrated. I was like, that's it. I give up. Give me old school Resident Evil any day.
Tell you what, I was never so glad to see the Angelus come, so they all went home.
Yeah. It's tea time.
6 o'clock. Ding.
The news is on now.
Yeah.
Even when you think about it, the first time you meet the Chainsaw Massacre, I guarantee you, every one of us that played it, we had feck all bullets even to do anything to him.
Yep.
Oh, you did, yeah.
Yeah.
You never had enough ammo.
So,
But that's the thing. It made you. It didn't make you. It didn't tell you that he was so strong.
Exactly. That's
No.
You unloaded and unloaded. You used up all your ammunition. I think at one point I completely ran out of ammo. All I could do was run away, but I still got killed. As you say, Eddie, the ladder went back up, and I was like, "Oh no!"
Yeah.
I can almost guarantee you that this new remake's going to be even harder at that when it gets to that point as well. You're going to have even less ammo.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I hope
Yeah.
so. I hope so.
Like when you, Freddy, you say you're on the roof and the ladder, you kick the ladder down, chainsaw and it's down below. You go, you can't get me. What's up the ladder? I was like, chuckle butters. To you, to me, to you. To you.
Yeah. Like to find like when I started jumping, like the time he came in, I like did this like jump out the window, I was like haha, and then there was a guy with a pitchfork waiting for me, and I was like 0 health, and he just went straight through my head. You died. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
you
Jeez.
know.
Yeah,
But
the game was brutal. It was difficult as hell, like. So it was.
it was.
Yeah.
Like, and even like as you were saying, some of the enemies you had like the crossbow Ganados to just literally they were annoying because they would just shoot the crossbow and you'd see these wee flaming arrows. And
Yeah. It's
and like every now and again you'd hear Ashley going, ah, and you're like, I swear this.
Yeah.
I know.
I'm going to shoot on myself.
I'm going to use my
Yeah.
I'm going to use my last bullet in Horror Estate.
Yeah.
But
Do you
like-
remember the claw guy? He was
Yeah.
he was blind, but he could
Oh.
hear your
You had to shoot him in the back. Yeah, that was his only weak point.
It was like Wolverine. He had
Yeah.
two claws.
Sorry, you had to go downstairs
Yeah.
like into a room.
He was in the castle and he was locked
Yeah.
up behind. He
I
was in a
remember
prison,
now,
like.
yeah, you had to walk around.
Yeah.
You see, I feel because they didn't have zombies and they didn't have the BOW element, they made a lot of different type of enemy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? To try and make up for that. Obviously, your Ganados, where you're just your standard, just chuck them into the meat grinder, and every now and again you come across, like you say, the Wolverine type guy with the claws, your chainsaw ones, just sprinkled in amongst the game to keep you on your toes. But like you say, yeah, I completely forgot about the Wolverine dude until you brought him up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's a part in the castle where what is it? There's a room you go into, and basically it drops a cage down,
Yeah.
and drops one of those guys in with you.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was a pain, a nuisance.
Oh,
Dude.
yeah,
See, whenever you played the game the first time and you come back in, right, you were always sitting there going double barrel, get ready. you're just wait.
yeah.
You know,
And he was tough as nails, that guy.
He
Like
was.
especially in that enclosed space.
yeah.
I died so many times.
And then you had so many of those monks with the crossbow shooting
Yeah.
at you as well.
Yeah,
You know,
they were
yeah.
outside of it.
Yeah.
Your best bet there was to have plenty of grenades,
Yeah.
just for maximum damage.
I got a grenade.
But
Anybody pushed out buttons on the voice? No? Alright, good luck, Stephen. Come back next year. But
I think that's more or less all the enemies, right? Like
it is, yeah.
there was those flying creatures. Oh, I hated them. Do you remember? They were like,
Oh,
what- you know, I don't even know what you'd call them.
Did they come off the...
That's right.
Aye, wouldn't they spread out of the heads of the bad guys and then you'd shoot them and the body would fall and then they would fly? Or am I getting that mixed up? With
No,
5 or
there's a
6?
different one. They had those. Yeah, you know that was another clever thing about the game that you were so used to playing. Yeah, that was a clever thing in that game, and the fact that you knew from previous Resident Evils, oh yeah, just aim for the head and blow the head off, and then all of a sudden you're like, what the hell is
Yeah,
this now?
The
You know?
mutated, yeah.
Yeah, they mutated. But these ones, I think it's in the castle, right? You know the way you get to the top part of the castle, and there's like a big cocoon hanging from the ceiling, and they're all in there
Yeah.
flying around. Because they're very difficult to get, you know.
Yeah.
Unless you've got something like a shotgun with wide kind of spread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were nightmare at times.
Shotgun.
Yeah, you had to let them get close to you to do any damage.
Yeah, and then you were hoping that you hit him.
Yeah, hoping. Yeah, it was literally just luck.
Terrible shot. So nope.
It was it was either that or you cut and run, one of the two.
Yeah.
That was it. But like,
I
see,
think- go ahead,
sorry,
Mo.
Diggs. No, saying when you were talking about the Ganados, there is actually a letter that you find that when the parasite infects the brain, it spreads out all inside the head. So when you pop it open, some of them would just fly open. That was the head was cocooning all that in. So when you shot them, that's
Right.
what that was. The head was the only. If you imagine like a flower, you know, when you
Yeah.
it's all held up, and that's the head was keeping it together. And then when you blow the head open, it just all unfurls, you know.
Yeah.
Because that's what they said, that they noticed in some of the infections where it would go, obviously, in different parts of the body depending on the host.
Yeah.
So what do you say in the game and hold your hand, help you whatever, like the other rest? How do you find it? Like you could play so far during the game, but then all of a sudden, to me now, this is just my opinion. I didn't think it held your hand because you could run out of ammo, or then also because you didn't know what was coming to you, and you couldn't do what you had to do. You had to backtrack, you know, kind of way. So that's the question I was asking. Did you think the game held your hand in that sense?
Yeah, there was no. I don't think there was a chance of the game being dead to you then. You know, like Resident Evil 1 was, if you ran out of ammo, you were more or less dead. I think that's the fact that the merchant was put in for that. He was put in so that you could always go back and buy more.
Aye, so Resident Evil was done in chapters, right? So you would have got your coins at the end of the chapters, and that's what you used then, obviously, for currency with the merchant, wasn't it?
You can collect the coins during the game anyway, but did you get many at the end?
I can't remember, to be honest.
Say scenario or chapter, whatever it was called.
I honestly can't remember because I was playing it during the week and I was playing it with the Infinite Launcher, so I wasn't really worried about money.
Here,
But,
Diggs.
yeah.
How many chickens did you blow up? every time I used to run through
KFC
the
called
village,
me.
Going out of business.
every time I used to run through the village, I go, "Park!" Shotgun would blast one away. I'd be like, "See you
Fried
later.
chicken.
Bye bye, mother clucker."
Yeah. Yeah, no, going back to your point, Steve, you're right. Like the game, I don't know if it, I wouldn't say it held your hand as much, but it certainly helped you prevent to get into a situation where you're stuck.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's a fair comment. Yeah, that it didn't really hold your hand. It was a difficult game actually. Like,
Yeah.
I know the first time I played it, I was just like, I died so many times. And I think my completion time the first time I completed it, I think it was well in excess of 30 hours. Just
Yeah, because
took me.
I think as well as that too, because there was the monetary element of having to get money. You were constantly looking for crowns and jewels and anything you could get to try and get that extra bit of ka-ching from when you met our pal.
That's right.
You know,
If you're
Yeah,
fortunate to have
that's-
ammo to kill enemies to get your coins to go back and do whatever you wanted or do whatever you had to do, you know, kind of a...
That was another good element actually, that you brought that up, Betty. The treasure.
yeah,
And I like the fact that they brought back in that you had to check the stuff because there was jewels to go into them. You could sell them as in their current state.
yes,
Get less for them, yeah.
Yeah.
but you could put, you had to put. Sorry, Diggs, you had to put them together and mash them together. But you would even walk past something if you didn't think of cracking a barrel open. There's a jewel under the barrel and you didn't know it was there. Which I thought, like as you say about your completion time, I don't know how many times I would go, right, there's nothing here that can kill me. Right, let's go scavenge. And you were looking for ammo or whatever you could get your hands on, you know. And then obviously when you found the jewel, you were like happy days, or you were trying to shoot those, was it the saddler symbols that were hanging?
The wee blue,
the wee
the
blue
blue,
things,
the blue
yeah.
coins. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got a secret weapon,
Yeah.
handgun.
Yeah.
I was
You
going
did,
to say
yeah.
the handgun.
From the
Yeah,
merchant.
the Punisher.
They're back in the remake for
It
sure. I
was
saw
15, wasn't it?
Yes, I think so. 15.
So it'll be interesting to see now it'll be 15 in the remake.
Am I right in saying that there was two weapons you got because there was one you got after like so many you collected?
Yeah.
But if you got all 15,
No, it was just
You
the
got
one.
some-
You only needed you only need like 8, I think, out of the 15.
Ah,
you did,
okay.
yeah,
15.
yeah.
I thought if you got the whole lot, you might have got something
Get
else.
something else.
No.
Was it not that you got Luis's guns? No.
I don't
No.
think so. What was the black tail? The Punisher.
You
was
you,
from
you, you, could, you
technically-
could buy the gun that Louis had later on, the Red 9. You could buy it off the merchant about halfway through the game.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of that.
Yeah.
So if you get the whole 15 element, or as was elements, emblem, what did that give you? Did it give you anything? Nothing, no?
No, like we were just saying, you only needed to get there was 15 available, but you only need to get about 8 of them, and it would give you the Punisher handgun. And what that did, it had a higher level of impact, so you could actually shoot 2 enemies with one shot.
No, I'm just saying, if you collected the whole lot of them, did it give you anything?
No.
No, it didn't.
No, yeah, no. I think it's just. I think Peter's right. You only had to get so many of them. And
Yeah.
you got.
Yeah, I remember that.
You kind of just went and searched them all just for more vanity, just to say that you did it, more
You
than
had to
anything
get
else. You know, 10 was, that's what it was, yeah.
Oh, you know what it was. So you did get a reward if you got all 15.
What was that?
Basically, if you got all 15 before you collected it, it had extra firepower. The team
Is
one.
that what it was? Yeah.
He gave you a free upgrade of the firepower.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right.
So you only needed 10 to get the gun, but then you need 15, all 15 if you wanted extra firepower in that gun.
See, that was another cool. You've just hit the nail on the head there. The fact that you could upgrade your guns too. Like,
Yes.
obviously, in Resident Evil 2, you could slap on a stock and stuff, but this I felt like you actually saw the upgrades more in game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As
The
opposed to
the amount of weapons in the game.
Yeah.
My word.
And you definitely needed to upgrade those weapons if you wanted to really get a handle on future areas of the game, because with weaker weapons was no way in hell you were getting through it.
Could you upgrade every weapon, or was it just really set?
The ones you were using the most, you could use you could
Well, the
upgrade them
rocket
all.
launcher you couldn't.
Yeah.
You know,
I
but
understand the rocket launcher.
But depending on when you were
Yeah,
playing, but you would only upgrade the weapons that were most important to you at the time, really. You know, that kind of way, like.
shotgun.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Shotgun all the way.
Remember. Oh yeah, definitely upgrade that.
yeah, there's actually so many guns in that game. It's awesome. You know, like you've 3 shotguns.
Yeah.
You've the Western type shotgun, you've the riot gun, and the striker. The striker had like 99 bullet capacity or something, wasn't it? You never had to reload that thing.
It was just,
You'd loads, like when you look at, I'm just looking at it here, you had Handgun, Red 9, Punisher, Blacktail, Matilda, then you moved on to the Broken
Matilda.
Butter. Yeah, Matilda, yeah. That was from Resident Evil 2, right? The Matilda.
It was, yeah.
so,
Yeah.
Yeah, but the Broken Butterfly, the Killer 7, and then the hand cannon. And as I said, the 3 shotguns, 2 rifles, a submachine gun, a mine thrower, the Chicago typewriter.
Yeah.
that was a Tommy gun.
Yeah.
Tommy gun, yeah. That's cool. And then the rocket launcher, of course, at the end of it, you know.
There was on the Wii version as well. There was actually an additional weapon that was on the Nintendo Wii version. It was like a laser, but what it done was it would shoot out multiple lasers. You charge it up, and any area, if there was 5 or 6 enemies in a row, it would kill them all at one go. So you didn't even need the rocket launcher.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Was that called the PRL 412? No.
It might have been, because I can't quite remember how you get it, but I think you actually had to complete all of the mercenary modes with the highest rank
Right,
in
sure,
order to get it. I do remember I did it on the Wii version.
I know
it
what
just-
I'll be
it-
doing in the
it made-
remake. I'll be just buying the DLC, unlock everything.
Yeah, I waited a couple of months.
And that's, you know, the sheer volume of weapons in this game is incredible. And when you think back to the Resident Evil 2 remake, I felt like there wasn't enough.
No,
weapons
there
in
wasn't.
that,
No.
you know,
No,
like
there
there was enough, but I mean, there could have been a bit more. Is what I'm saying.
It wasn't that though. Put it this way, it was like same but different. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It was like you got a handgun, but you didn't really feel like it was any different than the one you had. You know what I mean? Apart from maybe it was like a round or 2 less that you had to shoot, you know, from at the zombies. So you know that's hopefully in the remake here. Like you say, we get the wide variety of weapons that was in that game, because it made you, again, it's another arcadey element. You're sort of going, I gotta get them all, don't you? You gotta unlock them all, you know.
That's mad. Like, just when you're thinking about it, that the remake is actually going to be out a month today. So it's the 24th of March, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's
cannot wait.
exactly a month today. Yeah.
You know, I've booked some time off for that, so I'm going to be playing that. I cannot wait.
Yeah, we should do when we're playing, we all hop on and we just record, just talking,
I think you're right, yeah.
Yeah, just go live.
just have a bit of crack.
20 minutes in, we're all snoring.
What I would like, I don't think it ain't going to happen. The game itself has obviously all the guns you can up, but they're upgraded a certain way. Really damn it. But I think it'd be cool if you could customize it yourself, add your own mod to make it your own gun. Do you know what kind of
You
way?
mean like if like using a silencer over something?
Yeah,
you know,
get options.
yeah. That's actually not a bad idea, actually. You know, but you'd have
If
to.
you just
It's
not-
one or the other type thing.
Yeah, it's not just set the way it is. You could change yourself if you wanted to say have more ammo in the magazine, or you wanted to go for more damage. I mean, an option there. You know, kind of. I think that'd be
Right.
actually pretty cool.
Well,
Yeah.
to add to that wee caveat, instead of if they didn't do that per se, what if they allowed you that if you're walking around and you were to pick up, talk say, like a bottle or like a piece of a pipe or something, and you could construct a silencer that would maybe last you 4 or 5 shots. You could craft.
I think is that like in Last of Us, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
do
they did
yeah.
something like that. Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
remember
that
Max
would be pretty
Max
cool.
Payne 3 did that as well in some of the levels where he used like an old Coke bottle and he taped it. And he cut the end off, and he taped it to his Beretta, and that actually acted as a silencer for a little while too.
Yeah.
Right.
It's pretty cool.
As well.
Yeah,
They could say like, or even like if you're close to a zombie, you had like a stealth takedown where you could put his head in the ground and put the gun in the back of his head and like muffle the shot or something so it didn't attract other zombies. Like different
Yeah.
ways to approach
Yeah.
your situation, you know.
Yeah, giving you the option of stealth. Yeah, that's pretty good actually.
yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, definitely.
What would you think if they ever put it, like finish them, zombies near dead, or you stuck, you went behind the road, so you do a turn and you stab, do different maneuvers, so that kind of just like the finish. What would you think of that?
They sort of have that though with the roundhouse kicks, didn't they? Like when
Yeah, and you could because you could shoot them in the leg. I remember doing the suplex and stuff like that on them as well.
I just didn't think they were good enough, you know, kind of. I think you wanted
yeah.
something more, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was quite well. To be honest, me personally, I didn't really like that stuff. I thought it was a bit arcadey, and look, we know that Resident Evil 4 you're going to be able to move and shoot this time, so I don't think it's required. But actually, now that I think about it, it's actually confirmed. I think to be in Resident Evil 4.
In
his
some
kicks.
situations, that's what you want.
Yeah,
in saying though, if you're going to be able to move and shoot, that makes me think either one or two things: the volume of enemies are going to become more.
And even
Yeah.
more aggressive as well.
Yes, or B, they're going to be smarter. Like as in you shoot,
Oh, yeah.
they'll duck your bullets. Like because these aren't going to be like mindless zombies. These are going to be like a living thing that's controlled by a parasite. So
They do duck anyway, say in the original, but now this time there's a remake, it's going a lot worse.
Yeah.
A lot.
I got a quick question for you. When I was playing the Dead Space remake, they didn't put in the 180 quick turn in the game deliberately. They said that they didn't put it in because they wanted it to make sure that it added to the tension that you didn't know what was behind you.
Yeah,
What do you think of that? Like, do you think that's a good thing in survival horror? That the fact
Yeah.
that you shouldn't be able to quick turn.
The Resident Evil, the original, I actually rather it that. See, with was it Resident Evil 3, quick turn, you could do it in quick turn now, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
And I never really used it. I just done it manually turned, and that's what I was used to. And I'd actually rather that. So I'd rather it just stayed like that, because element of surprise.
I personally think it was added for speed runs.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
yeah.
Well, the
But-
element of surprise, you want it to be scary, yeah. You want to get a chill, you want to be... All right,
But
so-
like Dead Space, like the fact that it's not in it, I have to admit, it adds more tension because that game is just incredible. It's basically, Vinny, what you talked earlier about Alien 1 being like Resident Evil 1,
Yeah.
and like Dead Space is more in line with that, really.
Yeah.
Like those creatures in Dead Space, like they just come out of the air
It's-
conditioning units and stuff, the walls.
for
Dead
me,
Space is scary as hell. It really is.
For
to
me,
me, you want
for
to be in
me,
your toes
Dead.
the whole time.
Yeah,
That's the way I'm looking at
Dead Space for me was like a mash of Alien and the Thing,
Yeah.
because the Thing could like pull itself apart, and then there was two of it, and you're like, oh crap,
I
right,
can't
okay.
comment Dead Space, I never played it.
Oh man, you got it. It's
It's Dead Space is like one of those Resident Evil clones that actually you could put it up there with Resident Evil. Say.
Yeah, in many ways, it's in many ways there's parts of the game that's actually better than Resident Evil. In fairness, it really is.
Well, it had the movement before, right? The move and shoot.
Yeah.
Before
Yeah.
any of the Resident Evil games,
It
and
did.
kind of like everybody was like, "Well, how the hell can Resident Evil not do that now?" Dead Space have it.
Yeah.
The moving and shooting element of it, is it hard to control?
No, it's the same as the remake Resident Evil 2. It's just the same.
I just thought it would have been a bit...
Just a lot more gruesome. It's one of the most gruesome games you'll ever play. Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you get the chainsaw launcher?
Just say, listen to you talk about it, I'm missing out.
Is that gun still in Dead Space? The chainsaw
Ripper.
launcher, the Ripper, yeah.
Yeah, the Ripper, yeah, it's in it, yeah. All the
That's-
weapons from the original, I think, are back in it, and it's like that's my favourite weapon in the game because most weapons have a secondary fire. So the Ripper, as what it's called, is basically just like a skill saw, but the blade pops out in front of you, and you can walk up to the enemies with this thing just revving away, cutting them to bits. And the other thing is you can launch a disc at them, and it ricochets. So it's unreal. And you kind of blend that with the stasis. So they're running at you, and then you slow them down. You just walk around them, ripping them to bits. It's so satisfying. It's so good.
What does that say about us, Diggs? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it's just like, how was work today? I'm fine, honey.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Jesus.
Jesus, man.
Those secret sociopaths.
Not so secret anymore.
Jesus. But we kind of gone off topic there with Dead Space. But yeah, Resident Evil 4, what were we last talking about?
We were talking about, was it enemies? What were we talking about? We talked about guns, we talked about the ammo.
Oh, Steve was talking about at one point, wasn't it? About
Upgrading
holding
the
your
guns.
hand. Yeah. No, the weapons in that game were just incredible. So yeah, kudos to that, and I hope to carry that into the remake too.
I was just going to
Yeah,
say, would you
yeah.
rather that they kept them, or would you rather that they changed them?
Oh, I don't
Or
mind
would
as
you
long as there's
rather
a good
different
variety.
Elements of upgrading, like I'm saying, you can add different things. Obviously, not too much, but you can change one or two things around. Or I'd rather have this instead of that. Do that kind of way. Do you think that'd be a good addition to it?
Possibly. I don't mind, as long as the good thing about the merchant is that if you get a better weapon and you say, well, the other one's dormant now, I'll sell it to him and get my money to upgrade the next one. That's what I love about that game. I actually do. And the inventory I thought was much better. It was more modern. The attaché case, the fact you could, through time you could expand that, get bigger ones, and carry more items. I
Plus
just thought that was brilliant.
The good thing about the attaché case was you could organise it into the quadrants you wanted your stuff in. Like, as in, you could have your guns up there, you could have your guns at the top, health at the bottom.
Yeah. There was a bit of an OCD element there as well. Anyone with OCD.
That's the way I was.
I used to hate picking stuff up because I'd be like sitting there going, it's put the bullets in the right hand corner when they're supposed to be in the left. What the hell? Come on. And you'd be
That's the way I
sitting.
was myself. I had bullets, say one side had health, the other had guns, say top or bottom, whatever.
Yeah.
Definitely was OCD. No point in saying it wasn't.
But you had to have it organised though, because if you got
it
into a
was
serious. You get into a serious battle, you needed to know where your gun was to switch it in a hurry. You know
I
what
had
I
it
mean?
down to a T that if I got an egg, there was one spot left on that one. I had it down to a T.
Could you throw the eggs, or am I remembering wrong?
In Resident Evil 5 you could. There was a trophy for throwing the rotten egg.
That's what it was.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And killing an enemy with it. Yeah. I know, silly.
So I guess we're coming to the end of this episode. So one last thing I'll ask is, do you think that this, from what you've seen, now I've deliberately kept away from a lot of stuff for the new Resident Evil 4 remake, but do you think that Capcom, after the success of Resident Evil 2 remake, and it was gone back to full-on survival horror, do you think that they'll go back to survival horror with this remake, or will they keep it as action horror?
I hope they keep it survival horror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
From
know,
what I have seen of it, seen of it so far online, it definitely looks a lot darker than the original game.
It looks way more atmospheric, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, because there was a new trailer that dropped yesterday for it, and I will be honest, I did have a look at it, and there's definitely going to be some really cool elements in it. That's just for sure. So
it looks like, in fact, there was one thing I saw, and it actually looks like they've added new enemies to it. And once I saw that, I was like, "That's it, I'm not looking anymore." And I went,
I'm not going to look. Yeah, I'm not going to look at any more now for the next couple of weeks. I'm going to try and stay away from it as best as I can because I don't want to spoil it myself.
Yeah, and they've announced as well that there's a demo coming soon.
There's a demo coming, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, don't want to know about it.
Yeah.
Well, I will play the demo because, like, say, right, we'll be doing an episode, like a follow-up episode later on when the game comes out. But I also have an idea because I want to do a video on one of my other channels as well about it too. So I'm going to play the demo to give me a head start on putting something together for it in the next couple of weeks. So that'd be pretty cool.
I'll say that I'm not going to play it, but then when I see it on the store,
It will get the better of you.
No, I'm definitely. I think I
because
watched
it.
the very first trailer say that came out. See since then till
Yeah,
now,
the teaser.
no,
Yeah, it was okay to watch the teaser.
and see from then till now, I know nothing about it. I don't want to know.
As long as the demo, as long as the demo isn't too long, you'll be all right.
Going cold turkey.
Yeah.
But
So
just before we finish, you were saying there about survival horror or action. There was, I would have said survival horror, but I'm kind of a mixed bag now because I played Resident Evil 4 the original and I didn't like it at the start, but the more I played it, I'm going, well, this isn't half bad because over the shoulder look at the action element. But deep down, even though I did like the action element out of it, but the survival horror is still going to be the main one.
Yeah.
You know, you want that edge of your seat stuff, something that grips you.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely.
I agree.
Something that you say, oh goddamn, I'm going to have to wear a nappy now, just in case. You want that, you know what I mean? You need that element of surprise.
yeah, you need plenty of like pant filling moments, don't you?
Yeah.
You want
Exactly.
I want that
Speaking
game
of
to
action,
scare
you
me.
don't have that.
Resident
You
Evil
don't
2
think
scared
it's
me.
coming.
Yeah.
Just saying, just personally myself with action, survival horror, going. The more I played it, I did like the action element, but still that survival horror element in me, and I wanted to be on the edge of my seat. Don't think that'll leave me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, that's
Yeah.
what I want.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that in the remake for 4, I don't want to have to wait till the island to start enjoying any sort of survival horror element. I want that earlier on in the game.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, you guys were talking about the trailer there. I actually hadn't seen it, so I went for a quick look at the new trailer because I've been avoiding everything. And you see the Ganado run after he has this weird transformation. I was like, ooh, that looks good.
Those are 5 been, I watched the trailer, that's it. More, no, not.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I just had a quick look and it does look like a lot darker, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
You said more atmospheric, and that's more bone chilling. More, ooh, you get these chills up your spine everywhere you go. That's what you want.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up. That was a long episode, but thoroughly enjoyed every minute of that.
Yeah,
was,
yeah,
And a lot of
absolutely.
good chocolate points in it too, so it was
Yeah.
enjoyable as well, you know.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's wrap it up. So thanks to everybody tonight for contributing, and thanks to anybody who listens to this, and look out for the next part of our Resident Evil podcast special.